service starts now. With Sean Marash.
I will punch you in your stupid face, and I hate the Knicks. I hate their fans.
And Pat Boyle.
That's probably why I'm not a GM in the NFL, but if I was, I would probably take a huge swing on Michael Penix.
Turning your faith into fortune.
Few things in the gambling world I can't wait to bet more than the Jets under right now.
While serving up hot cakes and hot takes.
If Chet Holmgren was on that team, he's probably putting up better numbers than Wemby.
It's BetQL 5-Star Weekend, presented by BetMGM.
All right, good morning. Happy Sunday, happy Easter, happy March Madness, final day of the Elite Eight. I have that song stuck in my head. Dave Single, get it for a buck. Dave Single, get it for a buck. I can't stop singing it. I'm going to try to get it out of my head. You will probably hear it multiple times here over these next 3 hours. It's Pat Boyle. Sean Marash is out. We've got Mark Drumheller in for Sean. Mario Herron, the esteemed producer of this fine program. Dan Turner. The whole crew's here except for Sean. God knows what he's doing. He will be back next week, but we've got Mark Drumheller in for Sean on this beautiful morning. We've got the final two games of the Elite Eight. Baseball opening weekend is upon us. We've already had a couple of days of games. We've got benches clearing. We've got fights. We've got guys getting thrown at. We'll talk about that, how to handle that situation, why the Mets are a bunch of softies. The women's tournament, as you've got the Elite Eight starting for them as well. We've got a loaded weekend, plus a little NBA. Mind you, we're only about 8 games away from the NBA playoffs. Here is your one-stop shop for all the best betting advice, expertise. We're going to break it down, line movements, what have you here as we work our way up to this beautiful Sunday afternoon. Mark Drumheller in for Sean Marash. Mark, how the hell are you, man?
I'm doing great, man. I mean, how could you not be? You know, the March Madness is winding down. We're getting down to, finding the Final Four teams. So much going on. Like you said, baseball starting, lots of exciting stuff there. So, I'm pumped to run it for the next couple of hours, Pat. We're going to have a ton of fun.
Yes, we are. And we've got a loaded show for you. We've got a guest today, Justin Perry. We haven't found out whether or not he likes to go by the perhaps French pronunciation. Could be Italian as well, right? Any name that ends in a vowel, I was taught, is Italian. So he could be Perry. He could be Justin Perry. We're going to find out. He is going to join us in about 80 minutes from now. Big analytics guy, as Mario Herron has said. He's the host of the Justin Perry Show. So he's going to hit the hard numbers. He's going to crunch the numbers for us on the Purdue-Tennessee game, along with the other elite game, the ACC tournament rematch between Duke and North Carolina State, because it's always great to use the eye test as a bet, Mark, but sometimes you need the hard-hitting numbers, and Justin Perry is going to give that to us. We will do our first official baseball dingbat segment of the year where we pick three guys to hit a home run, and we'll see who can do it. We've had a ton of dongs, ton of bombs so far in the first couple games of the season. We'll tell you about our Grand Slam jackpot promotion, and then we've got hot takes and hot cakes every hour. We've got the latest on Shohei Ohtani. We've got GTFO or Oh Yeah. We've got a little DGen bets and our best bets, which come at the end of the show as always. And Mario, I don't believe we had a loser again on the Dingbat last week, our final non-baseball one. So if that's the case, hopefully nobody's got to dress like a clown or nobody's going to have to pay off a bet after this weekend. But Mark, if you're new to the show here, 5-Star Weekend presented by BetMGM here on the BetQL Network, we start every hour with hot takes and hot cakes. You either give us a bet, you give us a take. So without further ado, why don't we get it cooking? Hot takes and hot cakes.
Good morning, people. Boy, do I need some hot takes and hot cakes.
Mark, would you like to lead us off here?
Maybe I will lead us off. So I'll jump in right from the beginning here, and I'm going to go with a hot take. I'm going to save the bets for a little bit later. My hot take, hey, a little bit old school, but I've had enough of instant replay. Now, yesterday, you probably didn't notice because there were a ton of better things to watch on the television, but the UFL launched, the merger of spring football, and one of the best things, people talk about the kickoff and how the NFL adopted it, but one of the best things I was most excited about with that league was they let you peek behind the curtain at the replay process. They let you hear Dean Blandino or whoever the replay official is kind of walk through in real time these instant replay. And all that did to me as a fan, Pat, was make me 100% out on instant replay, because you're sitting there watching them go through it in real time, and they're still telling you the sky is brown when the sky is blue. Like, they still get it wrong. Like, regardless of how much instant replay we have, we're still going to get it wrong. The officials are not going to get it 100% correct. All it does is slow down the game. Listen, Pat, we're over here in the East Coast. These March Madness games started at 10 o'clock Eastern time. These games are starting way too late. They take way too long. I know they like to pump in the commercials, but I'm done with instant replay. I feel like after this NFL season, the officials, the rules are too complex. The officials don't even know the rules half the time. You watching it as a fan, you don't know the rules half the time in the NFL. What's a catch? What's pass interference? Why are we wasting our time with instant replay?
That's a great point. And it's a tale as old as time. It's an argument that's going to be as old as time, Mark, because, I mean, look, 15 years ago, we're screaming. We're screaming for instant replay. We're screaming for it. Get the call right. How many games, did you watch that were decided on a bad call? And, like, you see it on live TV, and then there's just that awkwardness that the announcers are like, oh, yeah, that's the wrong call, and that, just basically ruined this game, but let's try to, ignore it anyway. So we were screaming baseball. Baseball, the guy's clearly out at second base, guy's clearly out at the plate, and the call is wrong. Oh, we can't change it. Sorry. Football, basketball. Now we have replay basically across all sports, and it's as frustrating as ever. I totally agree with you, because half the time, like you said, it's right there in front of our eyes, and they still get the call wrong. So
they can't get it right.
I hear you, man. It is annoying. I wonder if we ever get to a point where – I mean, we have instant replay. I wonder if we get to a point where we stop complaining about instant replay. But I doubt it, because people have gotten calls wrong for the eternity of time. And now with instant replay, they still get calls wrong. Officials, referees, umpires, they still get them wrong. And I hate I understand the reason behind the Dean Blandinos and the Gene Sterators. But, dude, half the time they're on there, they're just telling us the most obvious stuff that we already see. And then saying, again, agreeing with the refs when they shouldn't. I like when they actually disagree with the refs, because it's like, yeah, but it still doesn't change a thing. It has taken up too long of the game, especially at the end. With the NBA, I feel like it's the worst. The final 2 minutes sometimes can take 20 minutes because of a review.
Kills momentum, and they use it to their advantage now. Like, you'll see in the NFL, sometimes people will throw, the challenge flag just to kind of like change the momentum if they have it. They're not really worried about the timeout in the first half or whatnot. It's just, to me, it's, again, the rule, it depends on the sport, but in some sports like the NFL, the rules are too complex. The officials can't get it right anyway. And in the NBA, it's just, they're just slowing it down and these games are long enough, especially, in basketball, where the end of the game is long enough in general, with fouls and teams fouling when they're behind and trying to catch up. So to me, it feels like a complete waste of time. I know I've been there. I've been like, how do you miss this call? But it's just part of the game, and we end up frustrated as fans anyway. I mean, maybe in the future they'll just have AI make all these calls. I guess if an AI tech company comes in with a big enough sponsorship, that'll be the new thing, and then they won't have to pay even part-time referees. But, who knows? We're not there yet. But right now, I just want to keep these games moving, Pat.
Yeah, I can see it. In 10 years, we'll go from blaming Ed Hockley's son, Sean Hockley, for a missed call, and instead we're going to blame IBM's Watson. Watson, you jerk! How do you get that call wrong, you robot? So
yeah, and then you got a bunch of robots knocking at your house, and 15 minutes later, because they can hear everything you're saying.
And then we're doomed as a society. So wait a minute. So let me get this straight. So you want to completely do away. There goes my mic. You want to completely do away with instant replay. You want to go back to the old days.
Yeah, just go back to the old days. Listen, if you want to do, like, maybe limit it to, like, the last play of the game, like, okay, like, I can get on board with that. Maybe, like, the last 30 seconds, but nothing. Yeah, I mean, we got to keep these games moving. These games are entirely too long, and the refs don't get it right anyway. Like, the refs or the officials still struggle to make the right call. There's still controversy. We're still talking about it afterwards. So all we're doing is just wasting our time.
Okay, I don't know if I can get on board with completely doing away with instant replay. I think we can find a way to be efficient. If you can't, we look at it, there needs to be indisputable evidence. If you don't see it on the first 2-3 replays, then just stick with the call. right? I mean, we're looking at with March Madness. The thing that's been pissing me off is, did it graze his fingertip? Can you see his fingertip
Right?
move
Yeah,
just
yeah.
for the slightest fraction of an inch?
Is
Who
there like
cares? If it's not
flesh
obvious.
flakes flying in the air after the ball hit his hand? You know? Right.
Do you see the dandruff whisk off of his neck as the ball blows by him? If you can't see it in the first two replays, then just stick with the call, right? It's the obvious ones
Yeah.
that make us angry. So I think we need to do a better job of making sure we get the obvious missed calls corrected. I don't want to do away with instant replay, but I can see your sentiment. I can see your anger. All right, I got a hot take for you as well. And after anybody watched a 30-0 run and another dismantling by the UConn Huskies and Dan Hurley, I think the conversation has shifted from can anybody beat UConn, or now it's can anybody even compete with UConn? They have led by 30 points at any point in all four of their March Madness games so far. Round of 64, 32, Sweet 16, Elite 8. Think about that. They have led by 30 points at a point in every one of those games. They have won by double digits now in 10 straight tournament games dating back to last year, where they won every single game on their way to the national championship by double digits. They've done it again. You ask, this team is unbeatable. Can anybody even stand a chance with them? Well, I think not only can a team stand a chance with them, I think a team can beat them. But I only think there's one team that has a chance. I think UConn will win by double digits against Alabama. And I think if it's anybody but the Purdue Boilermakers, UConn will win every single game in this tournament again by double digits. Purdue is the only team that can not only compete with UConn, they're the only team that can beat them. So if you want to watch UConn just destroy their way through another tournament and you want to bet them to cover every single game and hope that it's a breeze like yesterday was, you sweat it out for 20 minutes and they open the second half and the game was over in the blink of an eye. If you want that, that's fine. I want a competitive national championship. I want a team that I know has a chance to beat UConn. As much as I love Dan Hurley, all right, he's a Jersey guy and I'm a Jersey guy, so there's plenty to root for, and I feel like their fan base is not as easily hateable as a Duke fan base. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't think there's anything necessarily to inherently hate about UConn other than that they have become a college basketball dynasty in just 2 years, right? Usually you have to win a couple national championships. You have to get to a Final Four consistently. The way that UConn has routed everybody in their path over the last 2 years, I think you can make a case that they are one of the college basketball dynasties now of the last 30 years here. They're trying to be the first team to repeat since Florida. Only 4 teams, I believe, have gotten back to the Final Four after winning a national championship in the last 30 years. UConn is now the 5th. So Purdue, and we'll break down as to whether the other teams that are on the other side of that bracket have a chance to beat UConn a little bit later on in this show. But just really quickly, why I think Purdue is the only team that can beat UConn. First and foremost, it's Zach Edey. You look at the performance yesterday from Donovan Clingan, right? He's 7'4". He looks like he's 8'3", a man amongst boys. He looks like he's playing, a bunch against the 9-year-olds, especially yesterday. That was a good physical Illinois team, and he made them look like a bunch of preschoolers because they get it inside. His offensive game was on full display, backing guys down in the paint, like easy buckets for him. And then on defense, dude, Illinois didn't stand a single chance of scoring on him. At one point, they were getting outscored, I believe, 17-3 when Clingan was on the floor in the first half. That was the first half. Then, mind you, again, they went on a 30-0 run in the second half. So Donovan Clingan, in case you didn't understand his dominance before last night's game, you fully understand it now. Not only offensively, he's an easy bucket that forces teams to collapse on the paint, which opens up the bevy of shooters that UConn has on the perimeter. And then on defense, and Brad Underwood, I appreciate Brad Underwood wanting to fight fire with fire, the Illinois head coach. But he literally said, we're going to keep going at him. I don't care if he blocks 100 shots. Well, he blocked 7 or 8, and he altered another 15 more, Brad. So, your arrogance there cost you a beatdown. And so you have to find a way to get him out of the paint. You have to have a big that can shoot the ball. Zach Edey, although he's not a great three-point shooter, he shoots 50% from deep. He doesn't shoot a lot of threes, but he can shoot it. So the only chance is Zach Edey offensively getting Donovan Clingan out of the paint and just going up with him, right? Because it's 7'4" on 7'4". He might have the firepower by himself to be able to get Donovan Clingan in foul trouble or score on him. And again, if you get Donovan Clingan and Zach Edey to kind of cancel each other out, well, then you're talking about, all right, one game, if Purdue gets there, they've got three-point shooters as well, right? Braden Smith, Fletcher Lawyer, Mason Gillis. Those guys on a good shooting day, if UConn has a bad shooting day like they did in the first half, Purdue can absolutely beat UConn. They are the only chance, though, because first and foremost, and it's the obvious one, Zach Edey has to take away Donovan Clingan's presence, and I think he absolutely can do that, Mark.
Yeah, I think if there's a team that's going to compete with UConn, Purdue's built to do it. I couldn't agree with you more 100%. It's a very, very big if, though, Pat. I think this UConn team is going to continue to steamroll through everybody. If Purdue, has to lean on their guards, I don't know if I like that, but I understand your point.
All right, and I thought Purdue was going to go out early, so how about me? A little character arc evolution here. We'll go back, we'll break down the games from last night, look forward to the games today. We're just getting rolling. It's a beautiful Sunday. It's five-star weekend on the BetQL Network, presented by BetMGM.
BetQL 5-Star Weekend will be back on the BetQL Network, presented by BetMGM. Welcome back to BetQL 5-Star Weekend on the BetQL Network. Presented by BetMGM.
How you doing? Happy Sunday. It's the final day of March. The madness rolls on. Welcome to BetQL 5-Star Weekend. I'm Pat Boyle. We've got Mark Drumheller in for Sean Marash, who will finally be back next week. I don't know. I guess Shawnee's got unlimited vacation days. But obviously talking about the games from last night here. And Mark, I gave my take on UConn and how I don't think there's a person with a sane brain that thinks that UConn won't win the national championship. And I am of that belief as well. But I said the only team that can beat UConn, let alone compete with them, keep it within single digits and have a chance to beat them, is Purdue because of Zach Edey. I mean, there's no better matchup that you should want to see. It would be like Godzilla versus King Kong, Zach Edey versus Donovan Clingan in the paint, and then you just let the Purdue shooters against the UConn shooters duke it out for supremacy in the national championship. But I want to get your thoughts on this game from last night, because a lot of people, Illinois plus 8.5 or plus 9, whatever you got them at, was a trendy pick, and I could see that. But there's times where I have tricked myself into that trap before. Like, all right, I understand that one side is dominant, but like, let's be honest, 9 points in a game, in a college basketball game, I'm taking the other side here. There was no chance I was falling into that trap last night. I took UConn minus 8.5. I didn't think they'd go on a 30-0 run, but I mean, dude, that display right there, those 15 or 12 minutes of game time, and it was like an hour of real time. That was the most lopsided display of college basketball between two elite teams. Illinois was ranked 10th in the country going into the tournament. They were the 3 seed. It's not like UConn beat up on another double-digit seed. What did you make of that game last night?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think it's pretty obvious what happened there. I mean, UConn just ran right through them, and it looked like they didn't belong in the same gym. It was, if you're watching it, like Illinois, you talked about how, Clingan was so dominant, on the inside. Illinois missed 8 of their first 10 layups. Like, you can't even hit layups against this team. Like, what are you supposed to do if you're Illinois, a team that doesn't play defense? Oh, like Alabama, a team that doesn't play defense, and you have to go up against Clingan and this team of guys who've been just buzzsawing their way through, March Madness for now the second consecutive season. So, that's another issue when we talk about the Purdue matchup, which we will. There's going to be one team that has been there and has a ton of confidence and another team that has not. And I just think that this Huskies team is playing with so much swagger, so much confidence that they're going to be really tough to beat. And I didn't fall for it at all. I bet on what teams show me, right? I don't need to project with UConn. I know exactly what they are. And, if I'm going to get, lay points with, UConn, I have no problem doing that. They can't make these numbers big enough. I went out and grabbed 11.5 right away when it dropped against Alabama. I have no problem. I'll keep betting UConn until they stop paying out. They stop paying out. Listen, I put my hand on the stove. It gets burnt. Okay, now we reevaluate. But the stove's not hot, brother. The bankroll is. I got to keep betting on UConn.
The stove ain't hot yet, but the bankroll is. That is a hell of a quote there, Mark. Yeah, I mean, dude, you just, like, again, you mentioned you can't even hit layups against this team. And it's one thing if it's just like shooting variance. Like, all right, Illinois just had another rough shooting night. No, like every single shot from the perimeter was contested. Every attempt from inside the paint, Donovan Clingan, when he was on the floor, and he only played 22 minutes, right? But it felt like he played all 40, and it felt like every time Illinois tried to get to the bucket, he was there like a brick wall. And he was like, was it Gandalf from Lord of the Rings? It's the only reference I know from that movie. You shall not pass. Like, that was Donovan Clingan. You had no chance. And UConn, like, it's not like they shot the lights out. They went 3 for 17 from deep. They had 3 threes all game, and they won by 25 points. So, and just the contributions. I know Donovan Clingan is what everybody's talking about, but, like, how about Cam Spencer, right? I mean, a kid that grabs 12 rebounds yesterday. He led the team in rebounds. Cam Spencer, he's a 6'4" guard, but, like, that's the kind of senior presence when you factor in why is UConn so dominant. Well, they've got a bunch of guys that have been there before. Most of the team has played together for the last 2 or 3 years. Oh, yeah, and then you add in one of the best freshmen in the country in Stephon Castle. You add in a phenomenal transfer in Tristan Newton, who, by the way, had a horrible game, didn't even hit a single bucket, got all 5 points at the free throw line. So, like, you got a terrible shooting performance from UConn. You got a terrible shooting performance from arguably their best scorer, and they win by 25. Like, we break down the dominance. It comes down to things like that. And again, neutralizing the other team's best scorer. Terrence Shannon, who could be a lottery pick in this year's NBA draft, 8 points on 2 for 12 from the field. So just absolutely dominant. All right, enough about UConn, though, because we could gloss and we could wax poetic and glaze them for 3 hours here. But there was another Elite Eight game last night, and it was a pretty damn good one. And you had two contrasting styles, a defense-first team that loves to do their work inside the arc and do their work in the paint. And then you've got Alabama, the track meet, the three-point shooting, NBA-molded team with Nate Oates and his fabulous suits. And Alabama comes from they had a big lead at first, then they had a big deficit, and they come back and they win a high-paced, high-octane second-half game against the Clemson Tigers. So Bama, a team that I think a lot of folks maybe picked to get upset in the first round, maybe the second round. You thought, all right, the shooting's not going to last. Here they are in the Final Four going up against UConn. Mark, your thoughts on that Bama-Clemson game last night, and how much of a chance, if any, do you give Bama in that Final Four game against UConn?
Yeah, well, I give them zero chance against UConn. But listen, I've been wrong. Fair enough. I've been wrong on Oates and this Bama team all tournament. I had them going out in my bracket against Charleston. Now, listen, there's a lot of red on the bracket, right? Like, we got a lot wrong on the bracket. But, and this is a team that I didn't believe in coming into the tournament, and they are finding, ways to win games. You look at how they win, and it's incredible. There's no mid-range game at all. All the points come from, three-pointers or the free throw line. Nothing happens. They get I think they had like 26 in the paint against Clemson. And Clemson was a team. I played Clemson. I even played some Clemson money line. They're a team I thought that could give them trouble, lock them down defensively if the shots weren't falling, but they showed the tenacity. And I think that was kind of key. It was what I really didn't expect out of the Alabama team. Just in the tournament, the tenacity that they have, things aren't going well. They don't just fold up shop. They rise to the occasion. So I thought that's interesting. It's just, it's a shame they're running into UConn because against some of these other teams, I might be a little more likely to throw some coin on them. But I just can't against UConn. But it's pretty impressive. I mean, I thought Clemson was going to advance here, Pat. How about you?
Yeah, well, I actually, to truth be told, I didn't bet on this game. This was a stay away from me. I talked myself into both sides, and at the end of the day, I was like, you know what? If you can do that, if you can talk yourself into both sides, you're better off not betting it. Maybe if you get, maybe when you saw Clemson get that lead in the first half and you thought, all right, Alabama live, they're dogs, that's the best spot to take them. I thought about it. I ultimately stayed away, and then Alabama ends up winning by 7 because they got hot in the second half. But yeah, I thought Clemson had the game plan from the beginning. They played it perfectly, right? They pounded the rock inside. It was almost too deliberate. I saw Charles Barkley. I was watching the halftime, and he goes, they've got other strengths, right? It's not just, they don't have to be too deliberate about like 7-8 dribbles into the paint and then try to get a 4 or 5 foot shot there or a layup. So, but they worked that perfectly in the first half. Shiflin and PJ Hall. PJ Hall actually stayed out of foul trouble in the first half for a change. Mm-hmm. He ends up fouling out anyway. But it was a good strategy. And, you saw Alabama not hitting threes, right? They went through a big drought. And you obviously said, all right, well, if they can get hot, they can change this game at any point. But more importantly, what kept Bama in this game and what ultimately helped them win it, 16 offensive rebounds. And Clemson had the size advantage. So for them to give up 16 second chances to Bama, that's what did them in ultimately, right? I mean, the three-point shooting is one thing, but the second chance three-point shooting is what killed Clemson. And Mark Sears is a stud. 6-foot guard, a guy that is very easy to root for. He ends up hitting 7 threes. And yeah, Bama took 36 threes. They hit 16 of them. Clemson ends up taking 26. They shot a lot in the second half. They hit 8. But, Clemson hits more buckets than Bama, but it's the classic game. 3 points are worth more than 2. So Bama's strategy, they didn't get away from it. They didn't deviate from it. And you got to give credit to their 2 big guys, Pringle and Nelson, because without them, they don't get all those second chances. Clemson probably wins that game. And, like you said, we don't really give them much of a chance against UConn. And I think it's because, one, sure, if Alabama hits 25 threes, I guess they have a chance, but that's the only way. But they're not getting 16 offensive rebounds against UConn. There's just no shot they are getting that many second chance points. And again, we know the story with their defense. They don't really play too great a defense. Again, and Pringle, who played tremendous defense, 11 rebounds, had a block shot. Nelson had 2 blocks. Like, Pringle's a little banged up with the bruised heel. You can kind of see him grimacing through that game yesterday. So if he's not 100%, and Nelson, we said it in the break, Nelson is going to get abused by Donovan Clingan. So I agree with you. I'm taking UConn with the points here. It's just a matter of if you think there's enough people that can get Alabama back to maybe an 11 or a 10.5. But, I don't think that number is going that way, like you said. So
now, Pat, what is your threshold? Like, let's say you have to bet Alabama here, right? Like what number do you need to bet Alabama? Like, how big do we have to go to where you're actually comfortable taking the Crimson Tide against UConn? Like, I think that's the most fascinating part, because UConn has showed us that, like, they will run any team out of the gym unmercifully. Like, they will just, smash them by 30 points. And I feel like on paper, this is even more of a mismatch, like, in UConn's favor, to where they can really run it up against this Bama team. So, like, I personally, like, I don't know if I would take 20 points with Bama. I'm being honest. Like, in this matchup, like, I don't know if I'd be comfortable with a Bama plus 20 ticket. As crazy as that sounds, like, would you be comfortable making that bet?
It does sound crazy, and that's an excellent point you make, right? Because that's kind of with the mental warfare that, some people might be going through. All right, like, what number do I get sucked in with Bama, right? I mean, football, it's easy. You get up to a 7, you can take the dog. You get it to a 3.5 or a 4, you can take the underdog. In this game, like you said, you wouldn't be comfortable with a plus 20 ticket on the Alabama Crimson Tide. And I don't blame you, because yesterday, a lot of folks that took Illinois, what was the story, right? They had not lost by double digits all year. Says, all right, they haven't lost by double digits. They can keep this game within double digits, and then they get destroyed.
Nope.
And UConn has won 10 straight by double digits. So I think you just have to pick a number where you can, again, what is that number? Maybe that changes for everybody. Like, whatever you handicap it at, right? And everybody likes to throw that word around. It just comes down to, if Alabama gets down by 15 in the first half, they're going to shoot threes. If it's tied at half, they're going to shoot threes. So Bama's going to continue to shoot threes. I think you just got to hope that if UConn gets out to a double-digit lead, like they probably will, does UConn's confidence get deflated? And I don't think it will. I don't think it will, because, they went through droughts basically in every game so far in this tournament. They did it against Grand Canyon. They end up winning by 11. Charleston hung with them. They give up 96 points. They win by 13. They got down against UNC multiple times in that game. They never gave up, and they got down against Clemson, and they never gave up. So this team is resilient. So I think maybe you set it at 14, right? I don't know if it'll rise higher than, it's at 11.5, you said. It's already gone up by a point. I don't know if it goes higher than 13.5. I would say if it's at 14, just off principle, that's a spot where maybe you get in on Alabama. But if you're looking to bet Bama in this game, you wait until the very last minute before the last couple of minutes before tip-off. And if you want to bet UConn, like we said, I think you get in as early as possible. Our graphic right now on BetMGM has UConn at 10.5, but that number is probably rising pretty quickly. Really quickly here, let's get into and we'll talk about it more on the other side of the break as well. But we've got 2 Elite Eight games today. 1 versus a 2, Purdue versus Tennessee. The Boilermakers, who I said is the only team that has a chance to beat UConn, they are 3.5-point favorites. The over-under is 147.5. That is the second most bet over of all the Elite Eight games in this round. And then we've got a rematch of the ACC tournament, the team of destiny, DJ Burns, the man of destiny, Mr. America himself, Mr. Dipsy Doo, the Wolfpack, 7.5-point dogs against the Duke Blue Devils, and that over-under is at 143.5. That's the second most bet under of all the Elite Eight games at BetMGM. Mark, either game that you want to touch on really quickly here for 30 seconds or so, we can expand upon it after the break, but just your initial thoughts on both these games.
Yeah, I think I like dog in both of them with the points, but I'm not sure that either of them is going to win the game. I think that's the real key here. We'll talk about it a little bit more, but I think the points are valuable. I think we're going to get two really good games. Unlike what we saw with UConn. But I'm not sure if either dog can win outright. So I don't know if I'm going to be playing money line.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what. I've got one spread that I'm in love with, and then a reason why I think an over-under in one of these games is something that, as a bettor, you should have your eyes all over. You should be licking your lips. We'll get in depth on both of these games. Purdue versus Tennessee, NC State versus Duke. Again, I love a spread in one. I love the over-under appeal in the other. We'll talk about it on the other side of this break. Plus, like we said, we got Justin Perry, who's a big analytics college hoops guy. He's coming up in 40 minutes from now. We've got Dingbat. We've got our best bets at the end of the show. Don't go anywhere. Get some breakfast. Come back and join us. It's 5-Star Weekend here on the BetQL Network, presented by BetMGM.
BetQL 5-Star Weekend will be back on the BetQL Network, presented by BetMGM. Welcome back to BetQL 5-Star Weekend on the BetQL Network. Presented by BetMGM.
Yeah, that's right. BetQL 5-Star Weekend here on an Easter Sunday morning, or just a Sunday morning if you don't participate. That's fine, however, whatever floats your boat there. But we got Mark Drumheller in for Sean Marash. I'm Pat Boyle. Mark, I'd like to hopefully coerce you into bringing what you just said before we got back on air onto the air. You said sometimes you think dogs are smarter than humans, and other times not so much. What is the situation that you got going on there at home with your beautiful pup?
Yeah, I had a treat over by the desk, and I'm like, hey, I'm trying to show him. I'm like, come over here, and he's just standing looking at me like, you gonna bring it to me or no? And I'm like, pal, I'm doing a show here. I'm not gonna be able to bring you the treat. You want the treat? Come get the treat. And there are a lot of times where I think dogs are doing it right. Everything that happens, water comes off, it runs right off their back. We're sitting there watching the games all day, right? I'm freaking out about it, living and dying on every single possession. The dog just sits there, kind of looks, chills out, and watches the game. He don't let nothing move him. So I think from that perspective, dogs got it all figured out. But then sometimes I'll look at him and I'll be like, you want to come over here? I can't come over here. Come get the food. I got the treat for you. He just stares at me, and I'm like, what is wrong with you, man? Like, we're running out of time. We got the show to do.
That's phenomenal. Yeah, I don't know. Now, granted, I think dogs are very smart too. So perhaps instead of him, and you got a male, right? What's his name?
Him. Yeah, him. Yeah, dog's name's Biscuit, but it's a him.
Biscuit.
For
a second, I thought you said his name was him, and I was like, "That's phenomenal!" Like I'm him, he's him. Timothy.
He is
Timothy. I'm thinking about if I get a dog, and I have my family. My parents have 3 dogs, so I've grown up with dogs, and I always want a dog. With the schedule I work right now, it's just not feasible. But if I get a dog, I'm thinking about just naming him Himmy. Like how can you go wrong with that?
That would be a great name.
And I thought you said, phenomenal. I thought you were saying, yeah, he's him. Maybe Biscuit. Is perhaps just testing to see how much dominance he has, right? How much power, where's the power struggle lie within your guys' relationship? I think he knows you're doing a show, right? They have an idea. Dogs kind of know when we're in work mode, when we're not in leisure mode. And perhaps he's saying, you know what, pal? I'm going to test the power struggle here. Why don't you go ahead and bring that Biscuit to me? I'm not coming over there.
Could
dogs
be.
will
Hold
do that
ground, man. Oh, 100%. 100% they'll do it. They'll test you. They're smart. Like I said, I think they do. Dogs are doing it right a lot more times than not, and you look at humans. And the one thing I think is funny about society in general, Pat, and we could go really off the rails if you want, is like, we were talking about replay earlier. We love to make things way more complicated than they need to be, like way more complicated than they need to be. And, dogs don't. Dogs just chill. They hang out. They do what they need to do, and they call it a day. And, not too much stress, not too much chaos. And, we live in the Northeast, right, where it's all hustle. It's all chaos. Traffic is enough to take years off your life every time you step out the house. So, and from that perspective, I'm like, hey, man, sometimes I wish I had the dog's life. But, yeah, we make things way, way too complicated when they probably need to be just a little more basic and simple.
Yeah, right. I mean, like, let's just go outside and let's just take our number 2s right in the grass and not wipe and just call it a day. That would be really simple. I wish I could lick my nether regions whenever I wanted to, but I can't. So, you know what? Dogs, they really do have a better life than we do. And it's a simple one, and it's a great one. All right, let's get a little bit back on the rails here, talking about licking you-know-what and taking deuces you-know-where. We got 2 Elite 8 games today. We got Purdue, Tennessee. We got NC State, Duke. I'm gonna start here with a spread that I like, and I'll tell you why. And it's gonna, here's a tease for you. Here's a hint. It's gonna be one of my best bets. I like the Boilermakers in this one. I think you look at this at 3.5, right? And some of the smaller spreads in this tournament so far have been ones where maybe some trap spots like the Alabama UNC 4.5. This is at 3.5, and you see Tennessee, they can play good defense. The question first and foremost is going to be, can anybody match up with Zach Edey here? And so far, Tennessee has done a really good job of limiting points in the paint because guys like Adu and because guys like Toby Awaka have stepped up, guys that, normally aren't very big and imposing threats, but have played, they've played great defense, great help defense inside, and they have done a good job of forcing teams out to the perimeter and forcing some weak shots. Now, again, so far Purdue, they haven't had anybody that can match up with Edey, just like UConn hasn't had anybody that can match up with Donovan Clingan. And you thought Graham Ike from Gonzaga maybe had the best chance to do that. They get him into foul trouble. He fouls out. Wasn't necessarily a big factor. So now you're going to see if the bigs of Tennessee, if they can hold their ground against Zach Edey, and I just don't think they can. And, I said the reason why I like this spread so much, just outside of all the X's and O's thing, is if you look at the way the two games yesterday were officiated, and you kind of, use that as an indicator for today, not a whole lot of foul calls, right? Not a whole lot of foul calls. These games have been kind of reffed very physically, at least the UConn-Illinois game, right? The UConn-Illinois game, there was 34 combined free throws. Bama and Clemson, there was a combined 38 free throws. And as many possessions as there were for Clemson, Bama, and it was a physical game, I kind of think the fact that there was only 37 fouls called, I think that was a little light, right? So the refs have been kind of lenient with the whistles, which I love. Let the boys play. Let them get rough and tough down low. Like, we're not looking for ticky-tack fouls. We don't want this to be a game decided at the charity stripe. And I think if they officiate these games today, and especially the Purdue-Tennessee game, if it gets officiated like the two games yesterday, and there was kind of a memo given out to the referees this weekend, hey, let the boys play, I think that absolutely favors Purdue, because I think that they can get more physical with Tennessee down low. I think a more physical game favors the Purdue Boilermakers, and I think that if Tennessee has a chance to stay in this game outside of his shooting variance and whatnot, it's their opportunity to maybe get Edey in foul trouble and get the Purdue guards in foul trouble and do their damage at the free throw line and kind of slow this game down. And I just don't think they're going to have a ton of free throw opportunities, because I think this game will be reffed, as it should, and it's going to be a physical game. I think that favors Purdue. So that's the reason I like the 3.5. Mark, anything you like in this Purdue-Tennessee game?
Yeah, so as a better Pat, one of the hardest things to do is just to not get caught up in recency bias, right? And kind of what we see. So, with this matchup, Tennessee was a team that I believed in all year towards the back half of the year. When it came time to fill out our brackets, when it came time to see, look at the regions and see, the different teams pass, I didn't buy Purdue. And I'm like, I just can't buy into Matt Painter and this team. I know it's Rick Barnes on the other side. It's like, hey, he's like Matt Painter light, right? Like the option is buying into Rick Barnes in this spot. But I just feel like Purdue has looked so good, and we mentioned how they're the team that can probably give UConn the biggest run for their money. And I just can't swing that far to lay 3.5 points when, just 2 weeks ago, I believe that Tennessee would come out of the region. So I almost feel like I have to take, if I'm going to get the 3.5 points with Tennessee here, I'm going to have to take it. They're going to have to throw a ton of bodies at Edey. It's going to take a village, guys are going to get in foul trouble. They're going to get eaten up there. But I think if this is a close game, when it gets into the fourth quarter, if we get down to the last couple possessions, I'm just more comfortable, with Tennessee being able to make those shots than if Purdue has to rely on their guards, or if, they have to rely on Zach Edey. At what point does the pressure really start to get to Purdue? Because each step that they make that we say they haven't been able to make, that pressure compounds, and people are talking about it. They're like, wow, Matt Painter has never gotten to the Final Four, I believe, right? So this is his opportunity. This is his big game. Not to say that there's not pressure on Tennessee, but I think the pressure is just so much different here with Purdue. And if you're in the boat like I was, to where you believe that this team would fold under pressure, that they weren't built to make it to the Final Four, you almost have to take the 3.5 points with Tennessee here. I understand the matchup that, isn't great. When they played very early in the season, they couldn't do anything with Edey. They just didn't have the size to handle him. So, they struggled in that game. But I just think I got to take the points with the dog. I understand where you're coming from, but I just can't fully buy Purdue, even at this moment, as good as they looked in the tournament. It's still Purdue to me.
Yeah, and that's maybe, people can change, right, Mark? People can change, and I'm a changed man because well, I'm a changed man. Let me be the shining example of why people can change, because I was of the ilk and I was of the thinking, like a lot of folks, Yeah, Purdue, the first time they get tested, they're going to get sent home. They're going to get their bag. They're going to pack their bags and they're going to go home. Another early exit from Matt Painter. They've got choke in their DNA. I literally tweeted that. I've said that on the air, and I'm a changed man, right? And maybe it's just because I want to see UConn Purdue in the national championship because that's the best game. But also, I think Purdue, what crushed them last year was their inefficiency from deep and their propensity to turn the ball over. And Matt Painter, I was listening to the broadcast in their game in their last game against Gonzaga, and he hired an analytics crew to really help improve this team. And they said, well, you were like 288th in three-point shooting, so that's obviously got to improve. Now they're top 5 in the country this year in three-point efficiency, three-point field goal percentage, and they've turned the ball over a ton less than they did last year. So what gets you beat in March? You can't hit deep shots. You turn the ball over. They haven't done that so far, right? They've been super effective, super efficient, obviously against the weaker teams, the Grambling and the Utah State, but against Gonzaga, the way that they played that game, 9 of 20 from deep. They took a good mix of threes, a good mix of twos. They only turned the ball over 9 times, right? Like 15 assists from Braden Smith. He has been incredible. 15 assists, 2 turnovers. So they're taking care of the basketball. So what does Tennessee do? They force teams into turnovers. They force them into tough shots. I just think so far Purdue, they got tested against Gonzaga. It was a tight game in the first half, and then they pulled away. They showed how strong they are. And you know what? Sure. Now, do I hop on the Purdue wagon and then they get beat by Tennessee? That's entirely plausible. But I think they are a totally different team from the Purdue teams of the last 2 years. I think Matt Painter has really improved as a coach here. And I think, yes, Dalton Connect is a tremendous scorer. And Zakai Ziegler is a great on-ball defender, and he is taking great care of the basketball. I just like Purdue here. I think they're a better team, and I don't think that they are susceptible to folding under the pressure this time. Really quickly, NC State versus Duke. We can save that for 5 minutes from now. When we come back, we've got more hot takes and hot cakes. I'm going to tell you why. If you watch the opening weekend of baseball, the softest team in Major League Baseball through the first weekend, and how to handle when you're supposed to throw at a guy, how to do it. That's coming up next. It's Pat Boyle, Mark Drumheller in for Sean Marash. This is 5-Star Weekend presented by BetMGM.
BetQL 5-Star Weekend will be back on the BetQL Network. Presented by BetMGM. Your BetQL Sunday service starts now. With Sean Marash.
I will punch you in your stupid face, and I hate the Knicks. I hate their fans.
And Pat Boyle.
That's probably why I'm not a GM in the NFL, but if I was, I would probably take a huge swing on Michael Penix.
Turning your faith into fortune.
Few things in the gambling world I can't wait to bet more than the Jets under right now.
While serving up hot cakes and hot takes.
If Chet Holmgren was on that team, he's probably putting up better numbers than Wemby.
It's BetQL 5-Star Weekend, presented by BetMGM.
Oh, North America, you are beautiful. Wherever you're listening on your local affiliate or on the Odyssey app, or if you're watching us on Twitch, however it is, welcome to BetQL 5-Star Weekend presented by BetMGM. Yes, you are beautiful. You, that's right. You listening, you watching. It's a beautiful day. You're a beautiful person. We appreciate you being here. I'm Pat Boyle. Sean Marash is out. We've got Mark Drumheller in for Sean. Really quickly, before we get back into the betting talk here, we'll give out some hot takes and hot cakes in a moment. We'll get back into the Duke, North Carolina State conversation that we have teased here from our last break. Mark, just really quickly here, as a lot of folks around the country, around North America, are waking up here. They're preparing maybe, Easter festivities. They're preparing their breakfast. They're going out and doing some shopping, doing some errands here. I got to tell you, I'm normally a shower at night guy, or a shower after I go to the gym, or, before I go to bed. I like to shower before I go to bed so I can wake up, maybe get those extra 20 minutes of sleep. And all I got to do in the morning is, because I like to maximize my sleep, right? I like to maximize my efficiency. All I got to do when I wake up in the morning, wash my face, brush my teeth, the other stuff, and then get ready and get on my day. I don't have to prepare to wake up an extra 20 minutes early to get that shower in. I got to tell you, I took a shower this morning, just to mix things up, right? Maybe I wanted to open up the pores. I wanted to get a little extra juices flowing here before the show. I showered in the morning. I might be a morning shower guy now, man. I'm feeling like a totally new person here. My day has lifted. Nice hot shower. I do the Bluetooth speaker with the music pumping. I had some good tunes going. I feel like it just sets the tone. I don't know why I've been living the last 29 years of my life the wrong way. I think I'm a morning shower guy now.
So you answered my question. My first question was going to be, are you like a hot shower guy or are you a cold shower guy? Because I like a cold shower. Now, I'm not cold plunge, right? Like, we don't go crazy there, but I do like the cold shower in the morning. Wakes me up, gets me going. I feel like it's just much better than that hot shower. Now, listen, cold winter morning, sometimes I'll crank up the heat a little bit, right? We got to warm up. But, we don't want to torture ourselves for no reason. But I like a cold shower in the morning.
You're a psycho. You're talking about, like cold, not like lukewarm,
going, man.
Not lukewarm. You're going full send, cold.
I'm going cold.
Water shower.
It's cold. Yeah, it's cold. 100%, man.
That's absurd. Now I know there's a lot of health. I've read there's a lot of health benefits too to taking cold showers, right? With the blood pressure and all that, it kind of improves your heart health. And but I mean, dude, I can't. And I've taken ice baths right after. I play college baseball, so for recovery, I know an ice bath is good. It's so painful, and if I'm just doing it just for if I'm doing it for recovery when I was at college, I'm no longer an athlete, right? I'm no longer a college athlete, so I have no reason to take ice baths. I have no reason to take cold showers unless you're just a sick, sadistic person and you like to torture yourself. Apparently, you're one of those people. I can't do it. I can't do it. Cold shower, morning shower, yes. I might be a morning shower guy now, but hot shower, absolutely. Cold shower, you got problems.
I mean, we're sports bettors, so we're obviously sick and sadistic people that like to torture ourselves, right? I mean, isn't that what it's all about? But that's part of it, right? It just gets me awake. It gets me alert. It gets me in the mood. And I like a cold shower. At first, it was kind of like a little bit tough. I don't do it for the health benefits, although, listen, UFC bets went 0-4 last night, right? So the fights didn't go my way. So, I could probably use a little bit of, something to reduce the blood pressure after last night, but we'll get back at it next week. But yeah, it's just, to me, it's the way to start the day, the way to start the morning. Get a cold shower, you wake up, you get rolling. I don't like the hot showers anymore. Like I said, if it's like a freezing cold day and it's early in the morning and it's like, all right, I'll crank up the heat. But especially like summertime, like now, give me a cold shower in the morning. We get going, we get the juices pumping, and then we attack the day.
Yeah, you're an animal. I think I have a pretty high like pain threshold and a pretty high tolerance for pain. Not when it comes to a cold shower. When it shocks the system and that first initial feeling of like I feel like my heart's gonna stop when you're taking a cold shower. Everything feels like it's gonna shut down. I can't get past that. I like to enjoy my showers, and apparently
It's
you
like
don't. But that's
it's like you're 1 point under the under, and the guy's going to the free throw line, right? That's how we start the morning. We crank up the cold
yeah,
shower, and it's like you're on the under, and the guy's at the free throw line with half a second left, and you don't know what he's going to do, if he's going to miss on purpose and dribble out the clock or not. But listen, I have 2 kids. 12 and 14. My daughter's 12, turning 13 soon. So I get in the shower when I can, morning, night, whenever I can find time to get in the shower. I got to jump in there and take advantage. So I don't get the luxury of just figuring out, am I a morning guy, am I a night guy? When that shower's open, I got to hop in there and get the job done.
jeez. All right. Yeah. Thanks for that. Yeah. Some of us have responsibilities, Pat. Yeah. Thanks, Mark. I appreciate Some of us don't have 20 minutes to waste in the shower and pump a Clearwater Credence Revival or Credence Clearwater Revival. Bad moon rising today, hot shower. You know what? I like to enjoy it. If I have kids, if I make the mistake of having kids at some point in my life and I don't have more than 5 minutes to jump in the shower, maybe I will become a cold shower guy. But for now, you're right. We torture ourselves enough with betting. That's a great analogy you make. Cold shower is like betting the under. Hot shower is like betting the over. So I'm going to continue to bet the over when it comes to the showers. All right, hour number 2. We start every hour here on BetQL 5-Star Weekend with hot takes and hot cakes. You either give us a bet or you give us a take. So here we go. Hour 2, hot takes, hot cakes.
Good morning, people. Boy, do I need some hot takes and hot cakes.
All right, Mark, you let us off last hour with the hot takes or the hot cakes. We both gave a take. I'm giving a take again here. I think we're both giving a take. I'll go first, and I'll keep this brief because it's a tale. It's a tale as old as time. It happens every single year, and we didn't even have to wait 2 games to have it. The baseball season started officially, not the 2 games South Korea stuff, the Seoul series where, it was totally overshadowed by the Shohei Ohtani gambling stuff. We actually got real opening day on Thursday, and now it's Sunday. So most teams 2 or 3 games in here. And for the Mets and the Brewers, it didn't even take 2 games for us to get a benches clearing incident. We didn't get a full-on fight, right? We rarely do anymore. So just as everybody has become soft nowadays, so have baseball players. But we got a kerfuffle, right? We got a fracas, and we got the Mets throwing at Rhys Hoskins, former Philadelphia Philly. Last year, I believe he came off the torn ACL. He signs the deal with the Milwaukee Brewers, but he has tortured the Mets for a long time, and he continues to torture them. First game of the year, in case you missed it. Double play ball going to second base. Jeff McNeil, the Mets second baseman, goes to turn it. He loses it on the transfer anyway, but Rhys Hoskins slides through the bag. He hooks himself on the bag, so again, 20 years ago, totally clean slide, no argument at all. Even then, with today's rules, the umpires, they review it. They said it was a clean slide. He slides through the bag. He, slides into McNeil's ankle, kind of takes him out. McNeil's fine, doesn't get hurt, but he hooks himself on the bag. It was a clean slide. I got to be honest. As somebody that played baseball, played college baseball, I was a pitcher. I've thrown at guys. I don't know if that situation warranted throwing at him, but then the way it plays out after absolutely does. Jeff McNeil jumps up, and he has the opportunity to punch Rhys Hoskins in the face and retaliate immediately. You don't think it was a fair slide? You got the opportunity to strike while the iron is hot right away, and instead Jeff McNeil kind of like points in his face. He's cursing at him. Rhys Hoskins doesn't really understand what's happening at first. Then when he gets, he starts walking to the dugout, and both teams are converging on one another. Rhys Hoskins then, he's like going, wah, giving him the baby sign, wah, keep crying about it. Okay, now after this happens, okay, now you throw at a guy, right? You hit him in the ass, you hit him in the ribs. I don't, guys throwing 98, 99 now. You don't throw at a guy's head. You want to throw right behind him, give him a little wake-up call, that's fine. So the Mets the next day, this is yesterday now, on Saturday, they don't throw at Rhys Hoskins in his first at-bat. What does he do? He rips a 2-run double. Then they don't throw at him again the next at-bat or the third at-bat. He ends up clubbing a home run, a 2-run home run. So at this point, the guy that caused a benches clearing fracas the day before. Not only do you not throw at him, now he has beaten your brains in to the tune of 4 RBI. The Brewers jump out to a lead. Then in the 7th inning, the Mets decide, all right, now we'll finally show some stones here and we'll throw at him. And they have a reliever throw about 18 feet behind him. Not even close. Not even the right message to send there. At that point, you wait until Sunday's game, today's game, and you hit him in the first at bat and you say, yeah, you know what? We're not letting this go unnoticed. Congrats. You crushed us yesterday, but we're not laying down and taking this. So my take is the Mets are the softest team in Major League Baseball so far, and they handled the Rhys Hoskins situation as poorly as you could have. You hit the guy in the first at bat of the game after the fracas, after the benches clearing incident, and then you get on with life. And Jeff McNeil, again, if he wasn't all for show, all bark and no bite, he probably, pushes him, punches him in the face, does something rather than just kind of point his finger at him and curse at him after the fact and then does the fake tough guy, hold me back thing. And the Mets are a team, by the way, that have gotten hit by pitches more than any other team in baseball over the last 2 years. They got a new manager this year. They fired Buck Showalter, but they have, again, shown how soft they are. And you handled this situation as poorly as you could have. The etiquette of knowing how to retaliate and throw at a batter and hit a guy and send a message. I know that baseball, the unwritten rules have changed. I'm all for guys pimping home runs, but if you feel you have been wronged, there's a way to address it in baseball, and the Mets did it about as poorly as you could have.
Yeah, and me being a Phillies fan, Pat, I love to see it. My guy Rhys Hoskins still terrorizing the Mets. He nailed it. He's not even in with the team. He's over at Milwaukee. But yeah, I agree with you. And what's one of the lessons we learned growing up, like when you're a kid, right? If you're going to get in somebody's personal space, you better swing first. None of this pointing in their face, doing all this stuff. If you're going to swing, you better swing first. So I thought they botched it the whole way around. It was just a bad look for the Mets when you look at it. They couldn't even hit the guy right. He looked like 50 Cent when he was throwing the pitch for the Mets in that first pitch, that meme where, it's unbelievable. So, yeah, it just seemed like you have to strike early. If you're going to retaliate, you don't do it after the guy just rakes you, for a couple RBIs and cost you a game. So I just think, all around, pretty bad look for the Mets. But as a Phillies fan, I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, and I mean, as you should. As you should. Not that maybe that the Braves have been putting a pounding on the Phillies as well here through the first couple of games. But all right, you got to take for us.
I do. So my take, I'm going to go over to the NFL. It's the offseason. The big story, Jim Harbaugh signs with the LA Chargers. And I don't think we're going to see good results here. And to be honest, my take is I'm going to play the alt-under on the Chargers. I know the win total is 8.5. I don't think they even make it to 8 games. I'll probably play some under 7.5. I just don't like what he's doing, and I think it's going to take some time. He brings in Greg Roman, signs Gus Edwards. That's, maybe they go get Blake Corum in the draft. Who knows what they're doing, but I don't have this confidence that we're going to see success with this Chargers team right away. And that kind of leads me to my second point, Pat. If they don't have success right away, how long is Harbaugh going to stick around? Because we know when he showed up in San Francisco, everything went right. He was winning. He rejuvenates Alex Smith's career. He takes Kaepernick to the Super Bowl. Everything's great. And he still got under everybody's skin. Was still too difficult to work with to where they had to separate. So what's going to happen with the Chargers if they're not winning the first 2 years with Justin Herbert after they go out and, sign him and give him all this money? How long is he going to be for the Chargers? So I wouldn't be surprised if he's out of there in 3 years. I don't think it's going to work this year. I think the defense is aging. They got a lot of bad contracts. They don't have any playmakers for Justin Herbert still. He goes out and gets Gus Edwards. That's not the answer. That's not going to help, Justin Herbert. And Greg Roman's a mess as an offensive coordinator. So I don't like the Chargers this year. I'm betting the alt under 7.5. And my hot take is probably they're going in for a rough season. And I don't think Harbaugh is going to be the long-term answer.
Wow. That is certainly a take because Jimmy's done nothing but win, no matter where he's been. He's shown he can win at the NFL.
Well, not in the beginning when he got to Michigan. He didn't. When he got to Michigan, it took him time. These things take time. And is he going to have time with the Chargers?
That is true. And ultimately, he did win once he found out, hey, I can just record the other team's sidelines and then we can cheat our way to wins. But yes, ultimately does win a national championship, has been to a Super Bowl. I would hope. I would hope that the Chargers front office, and they got a new front office, but I would hope that they give him the time that he needs. But I think I think there's no more excuses left to be made for Justin Herbert if it doesn't work with the Chargers here. I think rather than pin it on Harbaugh, I think Justin Herbert becomes the scapegoat if they go under their win total, if they have another lackluster season, because there's only so much time you can give to a guy that's got all the talent. We've seen it, but is a 500 quarterback so far.
You got to give him better than Josh Palmer, though. You got to give him better than Josh Palmer, right? So they got some work to do in the draft.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. We could talk about some NFL draft odds in terms of some betting stuff as we progress. But we still have to hit on the this over under with North Carolina State and Duke, and a side that I like, and we'll get Justin Perry's take on it, his opinion on it. He's coming up next. He's the host of the Justin Perry Show, and he's a content creator for Shot Quality. So we'll talk to Justin next. Mark Drumheller's in for Sean Mraz. I'm Pat Boyle. This is BetQL 5-Star Weekend, presented by BetMGM.
BetQL 5-Star Weekend will be back on the BetQL Network. Presented by BetMGM. Welcome back to BetQL 5-Star Weekend on the BetQL Network. Presented by BetMGM.
That's right. Welcome back. It is Elite 8 Sunday here. BetQL 5-Star Weekend. Mark Drumheller's in for Sean Marash. I'm Pat Boyle. And we are joined now by a guy who is a big analytics guy. Let's paint a broad brush with him now. So anybody that hates the way that basketball has gone, anybody that hates the way that baseball has gone, where it's very heavy on the analytics and the numbers, this is the guy you want to direct all your hate to here. He is a guy that you can scream at for pushing that trend. Justin Perry, host of the Justin Perry Show. He's also lead content creator for Shot Quality. Justin, welcome to the show, brother. Thanks for being here.
Oh, man, what an introduction. Yeah, please direct all the hate about the analytics that you have right towards me. I'm ready to go. I lean on the math. It's a big part of how I approach sports. It's been a big part of how I've been a fantasy player into a sports bettor and just an analyst now as well, working with both Shot Quality and doing some baseball fantasy work with Pitcher Lists. So, look, it's analytics are changing the game, and you need to understand the way that some of these teams are approaching the game, the way the game has shifted. I don't know. You guys saw the shots that Alabama took last night. You can't deny that some of the best teams in the country are using what Shot Quality and all these other analytics are pushing, which is, dunks and threes at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's pretty simple, right? Alabama doesn't take any mid-range shots, and they're all relying on high percentage twos and as many threes as they can hoist. So I was just seeing here, though, at one of the games that, the shot quality in terms of the wide amount of open threes that they had and just the shots overall and the way that the game played out, that Marquette should have beaten North Carolina State by double digits, but yet they did not. And as we focus here on this North Carolina State-Duke game coming up today, Duke, the spread is up to 7.5 here on BetMGM. A lot of people, myself included, maybe you can buy into the opinion that North Carolina State is a team of destiny. DJ Burns is a man of destiny. He is a man of America. But I think it comes down to just North Carolina State. Maybe have they been the luckiest team so far in this tournament, Justin?
Oh, man, have they been the luckiest team? I think they're definitely one of the ones that are up there in terms of what their game results have looked like right now in the tournament. Expected, yes, to lose both Oakland and to Marquette. The Texas Tech win was a confirmed or, a median expectation of the shots taken would still give you a win there for NC State. So a little bit of luck riding. Marquette getting massively unlucky. I was tweeting about it, actually. Top 400 unluckiest team performance out of 11,500 or so that we've had this season. So just to give you an idea, it's in about the top 1.5% of unlucky results in terms of just not just saying, okay, well, a bad 3-point shooting percentage, which I think anybody could see who watched that game. But the shots were good. They had 8 open threes. They only converted a few of them. Like, you need to be able to hit those shots to win in March. And I think Shot Quality isn't saying they should have. It's just confirming that, yeah, you really needed to hit those shots if you wanted to win. Missing them is not going to, really give you a very good chance. And was there some maybe unluckiness? Yeah, I mean, there's a mixed bag, right? You can get into what the true cause was, whether it's, shying away from the bright lights or maybe just having a bad day or maybe an overinflated ball. We're hearing all these types of theories right now about Marquette. But the bottom line is that if these players had taken those same shots over and over again, 1,000, 10,000 times, the median expectation for Shot Quality is that they would have won that game.
Justin, real quick, we all love March Madness because of the chaos. And, with that comes that it's better. There are a lot of times where we're early in the game and we realize, hey, you know what? I wish I had this bet back. I wish I did not hit send on this one. And then we start looking into the live betting market, right? Because we got to chase. We don't want to be done and just take the L. So talk to me a little bit about, Shot Quality, what it tells you about in-game, the live betting opportunities, and if there's maybe a team that might be still left or playing today that you've had a lot of success with.
Yeah, we have a specialty in live betting. So I'm really excited that you asked about it. We have just developed a new live betting regression model that you can use in the game up to the minute, sometimes a little bit better at the breaks for sure. So you can maybe be a little bit more accurate, but it is sometimes even faster than some data feeds out there. We love betting live because shot quality can tell you when teams are getting a little bit unlucky. In terms of the teams that have done well, honestly, Marquette on their last game, that big comeback was one of the more memorable ones. But I think also for Alabama, even last night was a really good example where their process was going really well. And if you looked at the quality of the shots taken early against Clemson when they're losing, when they're starting off cold, and even myself making jokes about how can Clemson continue to get away with the 3-point shooting luck against them that has just continued to happen. Opponents are shooting like 18, some ridiculous percent. Well, Alabama trusted their shots, and if you trusted Alabama to continue to get those shots, you were rewarded with a good live line. So you definitely just want to continue to look for teams that develop open shots and long-term expect those teams to succeed even if they start cold. It's essentially, it passes the eye test, and it's the math that shot quality really tries to enforce.
Got Justin Perry here, host of the Justin Perry Show and lead content creator for Shot Quality. All right, so, Justin, I like the under in North Carolina State Duke. I think the way that Duke has trended, they have incredibly improved their defense here, especially in the tournament. They've hit the under as a team in 13 of their last 17 games. I think the fact that you got an ACC tournament rematch, I think this game is physical, it's scrappy, it's emotional. Do you like a side here in terms of the total on this game? Or, I think if I had to ask you here, you probably like Duke with the points. But in terms of an over-under prospect here, because I know you said it's only a matter of time until somebody starts hitting wide-open threes against North Carolina State. Do you have a side you like on the over-under and or the spread here in this game?
Yeah, I'm actually just taking a look at some of the shot quality data from when these teams met right now, met on the 14th and the 4th of March. Both games, well, they were split, but shot quality expected the results to occur as they did. So nothing crazy, no crazy over or under performances. A little bit maybe of a lean towards the under for me as well in this one, simply because the familiarity, the intensity of it, the models are going to come in around 146, 147 in terms of that opening number. I think that doesn't really factor in enough in terms of what I've seen, comparing actual results and just, I guess experience watching college basketball to where these models are opening lines. I'm not sure they're fully taking the gravity of some of the, the championship tax on the totals maybe isn't enough, right? This one fell from like 146, it's around 143. I still think it can go under. I still think if this one tightens up, we could easily see this one finish in the 130s, the mid to low 130s even. So yeah, I think the under is the lean. One team could easily have one of those bad nights. It could get a little ugly. Duke's defense has been ratcheted up. So I like that take. I'm not really sure on the side, honestly. These lines have been pretty sharp. I know, the last two results, maybe they haven't felt super sharp with UConn blowing them out and Alabama getting it done. But, in terms of where they are at post, I've been leaning a lot more towards live betting, probably looking a little bit towards Duke here for me. I just, again, that luck has been running out a little bit for plenty of teams along the way. You've seen, Yale, Duquesne, and now even Clemson see that luck kind of fade over time if you continue to bet against them. This could be the end of the road for NC State for sure.
Yeah, I agree with you, Justin. And, I saw some interesting stats just about, teams just straight up, like, double-digit seeds, like, in the Elite Eight, how, like, this is probably the area where the luck does run out, where you go up against better teams and you just sort of struggle. The one thing I like about Duke in this matchup is I feel like they have a good blend of, like, youth and, experience on the team. Specifically, Roach, who, he's a guy who can just take over in the second half when they need him to and, really, have an impact on the game. When you're betting this live and you're looking at the shot quality numbers, how much of that do you factor in, when you have like a more experienced veteran team, when you're looking at those numbers?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. When I am looking into these live opportunities, age, experience, whether these teams have been there, the coaching, I think all needs to be a part of the equation, right? When you have a team that's cold, maybe with some inexperience, I would definitely discount their ability to get back to the median expectation a bit, because it is a mental fortitude game, right? Like, you could argue Marquette last night, even Shaka Smart, and one of the great young coaches in the game, cemented his legacy long ago for sure. Even this run adding to it for sure. But I think it might have been a little bit too bright of lights, right? Like, the moment have gotten a little too big, not just for the players, but when they get cold, right? Like, okay, sitting here, missing. We've hit 2 of our first 15 shots. It's hard to get back up there and keep shooting in one of the biggest stages, one of the biggest games of your life. So while shot quality might sit there and say, okay, those shots were good in terms of the player positioning and who took them on average, these are not always average situations. So yeah, I think you want to take experience into account. Has a player been there? You know, if a team like Marquette gets back to this scenario next year and is cold to open up their Elite Eight game, I probably do give them a little bit more of a benefit of the doubt to get back to their norms, to start hitting some of those shots. But I think, you want to look at coaching. You want to look at the way teams have operated before. We actually have some really interesting data, partnered up with a research team to look into like the live betting blueprint in our shot quality primer. So like how often a team faces adversity, is down at the half by like 5 or plus, and then is able to come back. And I remember looking at an example of TCU, and excuse me, it was essentially 50-50. So we have the data on every team in terms of how they've performed in the past live. So you can get a really good sense of the stuff with the shot quality data. And that's why it's been a really nice season for our live bets.
Justin Perry, host of The Justin Perry Show, lead content creator for Shot Quality, here with us on BetQL 5-Star Weekend. All right, Justin, the other Elite Eight game today, Purdue, Tennessee. Who do you like in this game from a spread perspective? And this is also one of the most bet overs so far of the Elite Eight. Totals at 147.5. Purdue minus 3.5 point favorites. Tennessee plus 145 on the money line. You got 2 coaches that have not been able to get it done in the last couple of years. Renaissance year, perhaps, for Rick Barnes and also for Matt Painter here. Good matchup in this one. SEC Player of the Year, Dalton Knecht, going up against probably the repeat National Player of the Year in Zach Edey. How do you see this one playing out?
Oh, I see this one playing out with fireworks, but maybe not the type that, the high scoring people love. This is going to be a total in terms of like efficiency, right? Like, you're not going to see like a barrage of threes early in the shot clock. These guys are just going to get good looks. And I think the number is pretty fair. I have it, the models opening a lot of them, without that type of added equation for it being the game that it is in March Madness, in that 150, 152 range. So bring it down a little bit, account for how that game's going to go. The defensive presence that's probably going to take a little bit of a lead is going to wean that number down. And if you think it wins out, yeah, the under is definitely the play. And for me, this is a really tough one, because both these teams have proven that they are elite, but they've also shown some difficulty along the way. Shot quality actually had the Purdue-Gonzaga game pretty tight, so not what you want to hear, or maybe it is what you want to hear. A lot of discussion around that if you're a Gonzaga bettor, because I had the plus 5.5, and I saw them like, okay, maybe it wasn't the worst bet, even though they kind of got beat by double digits. Purdue, I feel like you want to lean towards Tennessee here. You want to get the bucket and the hook, right? This could go either way. I think both teams are very capable of winning this game. Shot quality projects it right around 2.8. So it's not like we have a massive edge here. It's not a play on the spread for us. But yeah, I do think this one's going to really come down to it. Should be one of the all-time great Elite Eight games in the last few years. I mean, both these teams have so much going for them. Great players, memorable roster constructions in terms of what Purdue's been through, in terms of how Tennessee has built this lineup up. I'm really excited for this one. Should be the game of the day, maybe even of the weekend.
All right, well, in an era where analytics and math rules the day, he is the one you want to go to in terms of getting all the math and all the analysis you need to bet with your brain and not with your heart. But we understand as sports bettors, sometimes that's easier said than done. Justin Perry, lead content creator at Shot Quality, host of The Justin Perry Show on Twitter at JustinPerry8. Thanks for joining us, bro. Have a good one.
You too. Thanks for having me, guys. Good luck in the end of March here.
Absolutely. All right, Mark, what do you make there of what Justin said in terms of, sometimes you got to trust a team's process, even though a bet you make doesn't necessarily go your way? I think that's kind of what we want to hear. You can live with the fact that, hey, sometimes shot quality, the math, the numbers say otherwise.
Yeah, and it's, for sports bettors, you want to kind of, trust the process, right? It's not about one result. You don't want to be results oriented, live and die by each game. It's you look at it, your work through the course of the season. So I think it's a great tool. I love the live betting insight. I think that makes a ton of sense. I think blending the rosters and their construction and the coaching into the models is really where you can really make some money. So I think there's some good opportunities with these games, man. So I'm going to be on it, and hopefully we'll make some money.
All right, beautiful. Speaking of making some money, it's our first Major League Baseball dingbat segment. We picked 3 guys to go yard. Chicks dig the long ball. So do we. We got 3 guys to go Yahtzee. That's coming up next. Mark Drumheller's in for Shaw Marash. I'm Pat Boyle. This is BetQL 5-Star Weekend, presented by BetMGM.
BetQL 5-Star Weekend will be back on the BetQL Network. Presented by BetMGM. Welcome back to BetQL 5-Star Weekend on the BetQL Network. Presented by BetMGM.
Is right. Good morning, beautiful people. We've got a loaded slate of baseball. We've got 2 Elite Eight games today. This is BetQL 5-Star Weekend right here on the BetQL Network. Make sure to watch us live 24/7, by the way, on the BetQL Network. And you can always listen to us wherever, whenever, right here on the one and only Odyssey app. In case you miss anything from before in the show, you want to find out what other bets do we like. Maybe you want to hear some stuff about the NBA. We have to get into that as well because we got 10 games in the association today. So you want to pick your spots. In case you missed it, go to the Odyssey app, search BetQL Network, and then you can use the rewind function to go back and miss or catch up on any part you may have missed. Also, you want to watch us live? No problem at all. You can see us on Twitch. Go to twitch.tv/BetQL. Mark Drumheller's in for Sean Marash. I'm Pat Boyle. We've finally got a Sunday for baseball. So we'll get Mario Heron in the mix here, and we will have our first dingbat of the season.
Who will win? Who will lose? Who will look dumb? It's time for Dingbat with Sean Marash and Pat Boyle on the Bet.
Yeah, so we've got our first dingbat of the season here. So let me break things down for you folks that don't know how this is going to go, because you heard the intro there. We're going to pick one guy. We're going to pick 3 guys to go deep here. So 3 guys that we think is going to hit a home run. I'll give you the odds. And then Mario, clean this up for me here, because if 2 of us get a guy that hits a home run, or I guess I should say whoever does the worst out of the 3 of us here, let's say for this week example, let's say Mark and you both pick one guy correctly to hit a home run. Let's say I go 0 for 3. I'm the loser, and then we come up with throughout the week a bet or a way for me to pay this off and look like a clown, whether I got to, put something on my face, dress like a clown, whatever. That's the way that we're rocking and rolling with Dingbat this year, correct? That's the way you guys did it last year?
Yes. So that is the goal, and I believe what we have so far is it's a shirt a couple sizes too small. So if you're an XL guy, you're in a medium. So that's the kind of what you're rocking with. If you're a medium guy, you're a little extra small. So whatever you gotta do, that's just kind of the outfit for the next week's show, and hopefully you work the chest that day and it's popping out.
All right, Mario. Since you seem to be maybe eager to wear a medium. You want to show off that chest. You got the hair, the flow, the lettuce is rocking. It is beautiful today. Why don't you start here? Give us somebody that's putting the ball over the fence today. Give us somebody who's touching them all.
Hey, Sunday's chest day, baby. So if it comes to it, we'll be ready. But all right, so we'll start with Vladdy Jr. Plus 350 hit a home run today. Vladdy is daddy, baby, especially on Easter Sunday. He's 8 for 11 against Sean Armstrong. That's on the mound today for the Tampa Bay Rays. I think he'll be sending one to the moon, so give me Vladdy Jr. plus 350. Mookie Betts has kind of been a monster to start this year. If you haven't noticed already, he's already have 3 home runs. Stay with the hot hand. Might as well do it in this one. Mark, you're staying with the hot hand with UConn. I'm staying with the hot hand and Mookie Betts, baby. So give that one to me, 3-1. And then my hero, love the Cubs. Go, Cubs, go. Let's get a win finally. Bellinger, home run today, plus 450. He has great numbers against John Gray. That's on the mound, hitting 440 against him. No homers, but hey, why not today on Easter Sunday? If Jesus risen, why can't Cody Bellinger? So go to Bellinger, home run, plus 450. I'll take that one as well. Bellinger, Mookie, Vladdy. Those are the guys that are going to help me not look like an idiot next Sunday, we hope.
All right. Yeah, 3 big names, 3 heavy hitters. Mark, this is your, I believe it's your first time doing Dingbat here. Would you like to follow up and hit in the 2-hole here behind Mario?
Sure, I'll hit in the 2-hole. I'm going to go against my Phillies here. I'm going to go with Acuna Jr. I think, Ranger Suarez on the mound. I think this is a spot. He's a guy who's been raking, not a home run yet. So I think he can get the job done here. That Braves lineup, there's just no holes, right? So, they're pounding everybody. So I like the Acuna Jr. to get a home run here. I'm also going to go with Alex Verdugo. You can get him around. It was 9-1 earlier. You get great numbers here. I think this is a spot where he can have a ton of success against France. He's 3 for 6 with 1 home run in his career. So he's a guy who has hit him well, has hit JP well. So I think he can go long ball here. And my last one, I'm going to wrap up. I'm going to go with Schwarber. I'm going to hope that we get a Schwarbomb here with the Phillies and today, and that they get back on track and get the lineup going.
All right, my theme is. By the way, before I actually give my picks, we've got a promotion going here. So every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, starting this past Friday, all the way through the Major League Baseball season, not only do you have the opportunity to decide which of our picks that you like and you want to tail, but also you can win some big-time cash here. It's our Grand Slam Jackpot promotion, a weekly bet and get promotion. Place a $10 or more wager on any player to hit a home run every weekend, so Friday, Saturday, Sunday games. If the player hits a grand slam on that day, you can win the $50,000 daily prize or share of the prize with every other winning bettor. So, for example, you bet on Aaron Judge to hit a home run on today, March 31st, against the Houston Astros. If Judge hits a grand slam, along with 9 other people that bet Aaron Judge, each of you will take home $5,000 cash in addition to your bet winnings. So the folks at BetMGM, they are looking to give out some big-time money here. And you know what? I'm going to go with Aaron Judge here because that's my theme of the day here. Guys that have yet to hit a home run. Judge, homerless through 3 games. And today on the mound is JP France for the Houston Astros. So we don't like folks from France. That's the really only reasoning I have behind it is Judge has yet to run into one. I mean, again, the guy is, when he's healthy, he hits 50 home runs in his sleep, broke the American League record and the Yankees franchise record 2 years ago. Judge has yet to homer in 3 games. He's at plus 180. I'm taking him. So then I'm also going with, in a game where, I like to see where maybe is the wind blowing out on a day-to-day basis, give that ball a little extra push, maybe incentivize guys to get the ball in the air. And there's 2 ballparks where you got some big-time win factors today. One of them is Kauffman Stadium in Kansas City, where, I look at Swish Analytics, a little plug for them to kind of, they seem to have an accurate understanding on the weather conditions and how strong the wind's blowing out. So between 2 and 4 p.m. when this game's going to be played, or 2 and 5 p.m., 12 to 14 mile an hour wind blowing straight out to left center field at Kauffman Stadium today. So another guy that has yet to hit a home run this season, Bobby Witt Jr., and he is at plus 375. So Bobby, guy that had 30 home runs last year, he is a stud. He is a guy that is going to rake, and so far he's hitting 500 through 2 games of the season. He's got 3 doubles. He's yet to get the big fly. So I think Bobby Witt Jr. Can absolutely go deep. And then a game 2 where the balls have seemed to have been flying so far in the ballpark is in Philadelphia. I am going with a long shot here to hit a home run. I am going to take from this game, and I just lost the odds on where it was. Or maybe it's not that much of a long shot. I guess I read. No, it is. Comparative to what I think he can do, give me Matt Olson. Give me Matt Olson plus 500 here. A guy that's been raking again to start this season here, and the ball's been flying. You got a day game as well, conducive at least, I think, to the ball flying out of the park. Now, I understand, right? Oh, you got a lefty on the mound in Ranger Suarez. So you got the lefty-lefty matchup. Maybe a little bit not as conducive to Matty Olson going deep here, but I mean, he's picking up right where he left off last year. He's already got a home run so far on the season, and he's got 3 doubles. So whether it's lefty-lefty or it's not, and again, you get in a situation where maybe he gets to hit against a righty at some point in this game. But give me Matty Olson to go deep here at plus 500. I think just because there's a lefty on the mound doesn't necessarily preclude him from going deep. So Matt Olson plus 500, Bobby Witt plus 375, and Judge plus 180. What do we think about that, Mario Heron? What do you say to that, bud?
I mean, a Judge thing was incoming. I'm just going to say that. Just, New York guy. I was like, I feel like a Judge pick's incoming, but I do like that bet. I think I'm going to tell you on the Matt Olson because the Braves are just hitting everything out of the park right now, it seems like. I mean, 12 runs and 9 runs scored in the first 2 games. I just got to feel a little tough for you, Mark. I know you're a Phillies guy, Philadelphia fan.
Yeah, it's been a rough
little
start
bit of
to
a
the
tough
season,
start.
but you know what? We'll get them back in October when it matters.
I love that. Let's go.
We don't.
October.
We
Let's
don't.
go.
We don't win any. Wins in April don't count as much. So, it's not even April yet. But we're not worried about it. It's still very early. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Also, I'm an idiot. I've been looking for Matt Olson's career splits against lefties, and for whatever reason, I have not been able to locate them. I feel like a doofus right now, and I finally got it here. Matt Olson. This was 2023. This was last season against lefties. So he hit 54 home runs. He hit 10 against lefties, and he had an 800 OPS. So very viable chance, and that's 10 home runs, by the way, and only 163 at-bats. And he had 44 home runs and 445 at-bats against righties. So not that big of a drop-off. That's why I think the Matty Olson plus 500's got a good chance to do it. Now, Mario, I missed it. Are you a Cubs fan or what? Who's your
Cubs
team?
fan? Cubs fan.
Oh yeah. So you and I are both Cubbies. You and I are both Cubbies fans. Did you know that about me here as we're the first weekend of the season? I'm a Cubs fan.
I remember that, but I remember we were in the pre-show meeting. You said Cubbies, and then you're like slowly going towards Yanks. So I was getting confused. I got the pinstripes mixed up.
Yeah, I mean it's tough working in New York. I obviously have to try to watch every single game, one of 162 for 2 teams. So my Cubbies fandom has trailed off a bit since I graduated college. I was a hardo, insane Cubs fan in college to the point where I had a bet in that game. It was Chapman. Who's the guy that hit the home run off the foul pole against him in Game 7 of the World Series?
Oh God.
It is. His name is escaping me for some reason. Rajai Davis. Rajai Davis. Thank you, Kenny. And as Kenny said it, I got it in there. And so I was like, there is no shot in hell Rajai Davis hitting a home run. And somebody says, all right, if he does, you got to do a naked lap around campus. He hits the home run off the foul pole. And then I said, all right, I'll do it if the Cubs win because I don't want to do it pissed off. And then sure enough, the Cubs win. So a little naked lap through campus for the Cubbies winning the World Series, the first in 157,000 years. All right, we're coming back. Final hour of the show. Mario Herron, Mark Drumheller. I'm Pat Boyle. This is BetQL 5-Star Weekend presented by BetMGM.
BetQL 5-Star Weekend will be back on the BetQL Network. Presented by BetMGM.
Yeah, I was 16. No, 17.
with Sean Marash.
I will punch you in your stupid face, and I hate the Knicks. I hate their fans.
And Pat Boyle.
That's probably why I'm not a GM in the NFL, but if I was, I would probably take a huge swing on Michael Penix.
Turning your faith into fortune.
Few things in the gambling world I can't wait to bet more than the Jets under right now.
While serving up hot takes and hot takes.
If Chet Holmgren was on that team, he's probably putting up better numbers than Wemby.
It's BetQL 5-Star Weekend, presented by BetMGM.
Yeah, well, thank goodness that Sean Marash is not in here today. You know, the big Knick fan hater that he is. He is going to be back in the next couple of weeks here throughout the NBA playoffs, where I expect the Knicks to make a huge run. So Sean's going to be hearing a lot from me. But luckily, we have Mark Drumheller in his stead today. I'm Pat Boyle. We got Mario Herron, the producer, Dan Turner, the entire rest of our crew here. This is BetQL 5-Star Weekend presented by BetMGM. We thank you for being with us. Third and final hour of the show here on this Easter Sunday or on just this regular Sunday morning. We got 2 Elite Eight games that we will get back into again. We talked to Justin Perry, who has done some great job with analytics. You want to break down the numbers and bet with your brain rather than your heart. Give Justin Perry a follow on Twitter, on X. We just did our Dingbat segment, first baseball Dingbat segment of the year. So 3 guys we think are going to go yard. And still to come, we've got our DGen bets. We've got our best bets of the show. So you don't want to miss that. And you can, if you missed any part of the first 2 hours of the show, you can rewind on the Odyssey app. You can listen wherever, whenever. All right, Mark, it is the third hour. So far, to start the hour, we do hot takes and hot cakes. Neither of us have given out a bet. That's about to change for me. We'll see if it's about to change for you. It's the final hot takes and hot cakes of the show.
Good morning, people. Boy, do I need some hot takes and hot cakes.
All right, Mark, do you have a hot cake, if you will, which is what we, a play on words for the breakfast. You get it. It wasn't my idea. If you hate it, direct that hate towards Mario or Sean Marash. But do you have a hot cake? Do you have a bet for us here to start off the final hour of the show? Are we about to get the wagers flying here?
We are. We're going to get the wagers flying. You're not going to like this one, Pat. I alluded to it early. It's like Sean Marash. The ghost of Sean Marash is hopping in here. I told you earlier I like the Thunder, getting the points today against your Knicks. And I do. I just think I know you alluded to you like the Knicks. Everyone's excited in New York. They're going to make a deep playoff run. I'm not so sure. I mean, yes, second best net rating in March, but that's against teams with an average record of 32-41. Losses to Philadelphia, San Antonio, Atlanta, right? Like, I'm just not 100% there with the New York Knicks. I think OKC is going to be highly motivated, even if SGA doesn't play here. I think that, you look at the standings, those top 3 seeds, it's neck and neck, so they can't afford to give up losses. The Thunder's been the 3rd most profitable dog in the NBA this year. Tough road wins against the Pelicans, who play great defense like the Knicks, and the Suns. I believe a little bit over a week ago, they won the home game against the Suns. So I know that this seems like a sleepy spot, but as a bettor, I've had a ton of success in the NBA targeting these because it typically causes an overreaction in the market. I think that's what we're getting here. So I like the Thunder and the points today.
And you know what? About 20 minutes ago, I would say you're nuts. And my Knick fandom bias would come out, and I would say without SGA, without Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the Thunder don't have a prayer. They've been slipping up a little bit lately without him. That offense is a little bit more one-dimensional, doesn't have as many weapons that can beat you. Now, I'm not so sure. Now, I'm a little bit nervous for this game because Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has been elevated from doubtful to questionable now. So he's been dealing, load management, whatever you want to call it. If he actually is maybe slightly banged up and Mark Daigneault and company just don't want to risk it. That's why he hasn't played the last 2 games. But now all of a sudden he was doubtful this morning when I checked. Now with the quad injury that they're saying that he has after missing 2 games, a quad bruise, he has now been upgraded to questionable, which I think is excellent news for you. Certainly excellent news for anybody that might have bet this already. And you got the Thunder at 4.5. Because now the Knicks are a 1.5 point favorite And as much as I love the Knicks, and I'm going to go to bat for them, and I'll go to war for them, and I think even without OG Anunoby and Julius Randle, with Mitch Robinson just coming back, the Knicks are still an elite team. Now with SGA, if he plays tonight, I got a bad feeling about this game. I got a bad feeling because who is going to guard Shai Gilgeous-Alexander? If OG Anunoby's playing, I think he can be the neutralizer. He's one of the best defenders in the NBA. Without OG Anunoby, if Shai does come back, not only are you expecting him to be fresh, I just think at this point there might be too many answers for the Knicks to deal with. And the Knicks have struggled this year against teams that get elite guard play. So that really concerns me here if SGA is going to play and is going to suit it up for the Thunder. So I'm going to root for him. I think this could be a possible NBA Finals preview. That's right, because I think if the Knicks are whole, if OG Anunoby, once he comes back, which he will, when Julius Randle, whatever percentage of health he is, I do think that the Knicks can beat anybody in their path outside of the Boston Celtics. And then if they do get to an Eastern Conference Finals match with the Celtics, I think you roll the dice with them at that point. But yeah, tonight's game, now that SGA might play, I'm a little bit scared. I got to be honest with you.
I got a lot of Celtics to win the East tied up in parlays with the UConn and a bunch of other, crazy teams. South Carolina's women's team, but Kansas City, the three-peat. So I have a ton of combinations. So I do have a lot invested in Boston winning the East. I don't see the Knicks the same way you do, which makes sense, right? You're a huge fan. I'm from Philadelphia, so obviously, don't want to see either the Knicks or Boston win, but one of them has to. But I just think that they need to prove to me a little bit more against some of the elite teams. But, we'll see how it goes. But I like the Thunder in this spot. Like I mentioned before, one of the things I like to do in the NBA is kind of pick off these overreactions. Like a player goes out or a player's expected out, the market moves. A lot of times it moves too much, and it creates opportunity for you to play in on the other side. So you see that a lot with rest, like teams on, coming home after a road trip. I like to fade those teams because the market really values that a lot. The fact that, now they're coming home after a long road trip. A lot of times they value it too much. I like to play the other side. So I'm going to be on the Thunder here.
All right. I'm going to the Premier League here. I'm going to soccer in a game that, you maybe don't want to wait till 7 o'clock for Thunder Knicks at the Garden. Maybe you want some immediate action here. Maybe you're a little thirsty. Maybe you're hungry for some plays. So I got something for you that's kicking off in just over 20 minutes. And it could decide the title winners of the English Premier League. You got Man City versus Arsenal. I'm a Man City fan, but I am not betting this with bias here. I think this is just, you're getting the best value you're ever going to get on Man City at home. They are the defending champions of the Premier League. They won the 3 major titles last year, the Premier League, the FA Cup, and the Champions League, champions of Europe. They have a chance to do it all again, and you're getting Man City probably for the only time you will this year, and maybe any time that you could in the last 12 to 24 months, in the next 12 to 24 months here. You're getting Man City at plus money to win this game, plus 105 on BetMGM. And you've got Man City in third place, 1 point behind Arsenal. Arsenal's got 64 points. Man City's got 63. Liverpool, who played today and won, they got 67. So either of these teams wins this game, and they are right there neck and neck for the title chase. It's exciting, and as a fan of soccer, this is the type of game that seasons are made or broken on. And I think for Man City, here's the numbers for them at home this year: 10 wins, 4 draws, 0 losses. Man City has not lost at home in almost 2 years here in all competitions. So, and they have dominated this head-to-head up until the last game, right? Man City, before Arsenal beat them at Arsenal in October, Manchester City, in terms of competitive games, had beaten Arsenal in 8 straight competitions. You got 2 managers that know each other very well. Pep Guardiola for Man City, and then his understudy. Can the pupil become the master with Mikel Arteta? That's the question here. But I just think you get Man City at home for plus money. I am going to take that. That is what I'd like to call a system bet every single day of the week here. So this is kicking off in 20 minutes. That is the first thing I'm doing when this show ends, Mark. I am going to be screaming at the TV. I'm going to be a hooligan here. And I'm taking my team at home for plus money. at plus 105. Give me Manchester City. Do you watch soccer,
I love
Mark?
it, man. I don't. I'm not a big soccer guy, but I love the process. Like, you get an opportunity to get a good team, an elite team at plus money. You have to take advantage of it. So I might tail you on that one, Pat. We'll start the day off, on the right side of the old P&L.
All right, beautiful. I like that. All right, let's talk some NFL here because we've been heavy March Madness, and we will get back into the March Madness talk, right on the other side of this break. But never a bad thing to talk about some football, and you got the USFL, or they have whatever stupid knockoff league is playing right now. I don't know about you, Mark. I could not care less about anything that's not the NFL. I savor every single game, every quarter, every snap of football that we get between, if you include college football, between August, but definitely between September and February. I don't need to see a bunch of NFL retreads or guys that don't have a chance to play in the NFL. And whatever freaking weird rules that they got to try to make it more exciting. I don't care about the USFL or the AFL, whatever league is playing. Are you going to be watching any of, the Birmingham Baron Burners against the Stallions today?
Well, we do have our DGen bets coming up a little bit later, so I don't want to bury the lead here. But I'm a guy, listen, I dove into these leagues a lot because I like them. Like, I grew up a little bit older, USFL was awesome back in the day, had a lot of great talent to translate to the NFL. And I'll take all the football I can get, right? But just last year, watching both those leagues and now seeing them merge, to me, it signals that it's not viable. And I just don't think the league is viable. So why do you want to invest in it? And I love that they're trying it and they're trying to make it work. Like I said, the more football, the better for me, but not following it this year just because, I got other things I got to dig into. And I just don't think it's going to be a long-term thing. So it really doesn't make sense to try and, pick apart market efficiencies when you're not going to have the same product year after year. They're already merging the leagues, and it just seems like it's heading in the wrong direction.
Okay, well, the NFL, the greedy pigs that they are, that Roger Goodell is, we got 2 Christmas Day games on a Wednesday. I mean, when is enough? We got a Brazil game on Peacock only on Friday, and then we got one of the first games on Monday night on only Amazon. It's not going to stop. But the one thing that I do like that they have done is that they have taken some of the rules from these leagues, from the XFL, from the USFL. We've got new kickoff changes here. First and foremost, the kickoff itself, they're going with the XFL format. Players will line up 5 yards apart from each other on the 40 and the 35-yard line, and you have to wait until the kick lands or is touched by one of the 2 returners. It's a 1-year rule. It is taken mainly from the XFL. Do you like this rule? Do you think that it now implements a layer of excitement in terms of maybe we now get some more kickoff returns for touchdowns here?
Does it add a layer of excitement? No, but I also like the rule because, I hate the current rule. The current rule is just so bad. I was at a point this season watching, Pat, where I'm watching the game and I'm like, why are we kicking it off? Just so we can go to another commercial? Why are we even wasting our time doing this? Why don't we just start the teams at the 20-yard line, So if they don't want to do that and they want to keep special teams alive a little bit more and they find this new way that the XFL does it that can be a little bit safer and it can lead to more returns, that's my point. If you're just going to kick out of the end zone, let's find something better to do. Let's run actual plays that have meaning towards the games. So, and that's what you were seeing, all last year is they're just kicking out of the end zone. The returners don't matter. So, and then they go to commercial. So to me, anything is an improvement. But I would also be fine with just starting on the 20, 25-yard line and, going from there. Or, you know what? Start at the 10. Who cares? It make teams drive 90 yards.
All right. How about a guy that will probably that has now gotten himself a job for at least another year because of this new kickoff rule? How about the Steelers immediately going and signing Cordero Patterson? Maybe that they hope they get that they get some special teams because God knows with the offense the last several years they ain't getting any points. So now the Steelers are going, well, maybe we can return a kick or 2 for a touchdown. We also got a new onside kick rule, or they've gone back, I believe, to the original rule. You can overload one side again. Onside kicks, they used to be exciting. You used to think there was a chance. Now it's basically 1% or a fraction of a percent of it being recovered. You never really, once a team gets down by 2 scores in the final 2 minutes of a game, you never really think that they actually have a chance of recovering the onside kick. Any thoughts on this one? Do you like that they can now overload one side again?
Yeah, I think it's fine. I mean, it doesn't bother me. But I'm from the camp of the onside kick should be really, really hard. Like they want to like change the rules. Like one of the things like these other leagues did was they do the 4th and 15, and then you get to keep the ball. You can't do that in the NFL because they're going to call pass interference every time, and then these teams are just going to get the ball back whenever they want. So I'm okay with it. To me, it is what it is. As long as you don't do anything crazy, like I'm fine with it.
All right, we're coming down the stretch. We got GTFO or Oh Yeah coming up still. We've got DGen bets. We got our best bets of the day. Mark Drumheller's in for Sean Marash. I'm Pat Boyle. Don't you go anywhere. We've given out a few wagers. The best ones are coming up here in the next 20 minutes. This is BetQL 5-Star Weekend. It's presented by BetMGM.
BetQL 5-Star Weekend will be back on the BetQL Network. Presented by BetMGM. Welcome back to BetQL 5-Star Weekend on the BetQL Network. Presented by BetMGM.
You roar for me, you dirty girl. It's Pat Boyle and it's Mark Drumheller in for Sean Marash here. BetQL 5-Star Weekend. I always love that lion roar. That gets me going. That gets the juices flowing.
It's like a cold shower.
Yeah, Mark Drumheller, proponent of the cold shower. Maybe I'm just running from the fact that I'm a little baby. Maybe I'm running from the fact that I just can't handle the cold shower. I can't do it. I can't do it, Mark. You happy? I've admitted
it's upstairs,
it.
man.
It's a cold shower.
You're just comfortable with the hot shower. It's what you know. You're afraid to jump out of the comfort zone. I'm telling you, it's a little bit of a process. You're not going to hop in there and fall in love. You know what I mean? But listen, you get the tunes going, you get yourself amped up, you get in there, nice cold shower. It's just, you feel different, man. You want to be different, right?
Yeah, you want to be different, but like I also am not a masochist. So now I feel like
American Psycho.
Yeah. I feel like I owe it to myself maybe to have a cold shower at any point here in the next coming days. Who knows? Maybe if I don't have such a great day betting today, maybe I'll try to switch up the mojo. Maybe the cold shower will turn things around.
You got to change the vibes, man. It's all.
Let me ask you that here before we get to GTFO. Oh yeah, and by the way, if you are just joining us, he's Mark Drumheller. He's in for Sean Marash. I'm Pat Boyle. Mario Herron's producing. We got Dan Turner. We got Kenny. We got the whole crew here. This is BetQL 5-Star Weekend. Let me ask you that. Speaking of which, obviously, always bet responsibly. Don't bet what you can't lose. But, there's times where you're going through a little cold patch. You got to change things up. What regular run-of-the-mill everyday things, or do you have any strategies, Mark, that if you go through a bit of a losing streak, do you have a one-stop shop fix, or do you have something that you like to switch up the mojo or change things up there to get on a hot streak? What do you like to do?
It sounds counterproductive, but I turn everything off. I stop taking in information, because I think that's really what happens a lot of times is on the internet and the social media and stuff, we hear so much and so much analysis and so much data and all that stuff. And sometimes it can be a little bit of overload. And so if I need to switch up the mojo, I just start peeling off layers, shutting things down, and try and look at things in a little bit more simplistic terms, right? Because that's what happens is, I think you hear all these different things. You're like, wow, I didn't think about that. You start talking yourself out of bets, talking yourself into bets that you normally wouldn't make. So for me, man, I'm like Aaron Rodgers. I go into the darkness. Might be the only way I'm like Aaron Rodgers, but with the betting, that's what I do, man. I just go into the cave and I'm like, all right, dude, I'm shutting everyone out and I'm just going to look at it objectively as I can.
Yeah, a little ayahuasca, maybe a little acid trip to change things up, to change the mojo going. I like that though.
Come out with a 12-leg parlay.
I've come out of the cave and I'm going Illinois money line against UConn. No, I like that, because I think there is times too. I think not one of the worst things, but I think at times it could be one of the worst things you can do as a bettor, right? Is when you start falling into your own traps, or you start second guessing your gut feel. And, numbers can tell. I think numbers can tell you anything that you want to be told, right? Numbers can point you in any direction you want to be pulled. And if you're not going with it and saying, all right, here is, without looking at anything else, let's say, just for example, this Duke North Carolina State game. If you want to say, all right, you know what? I like Duke. I've watched them play. North Carolina State, I've watched their games. Teams just can't hit open shots. I'm going with the Blue Devils. I'm taking the 7.5. That's it. If that's the way you feel, a lot of the times you go with your gut instinct. When you get into those of North Carolina State is their numbers against the spread on a Sunday afternoon, when the birds are chirping and whatnot, is this record. Or if you look at it and you say, all right, well, the last time, head-to-head matchups sometimes are good, sometimes they're telling, sometimes they're not. North Carolina State won that last game. So for somebody like me, I'm leaning on I love the under, but somebody that's also leaning on Duke with the points here, I'm looking at this, the head-to-head, they just played a couple weeks ago. North Carolina State won it. All right, neutral floor. It's another neutral floor. That's something that you know, you can get caught up on, I think, if you have a side that you like. You can take in too much information. And yeah, sure, you have to look at maybe head-to-head history. You have to look at it. But sometimes it's just as easy as, you know what? I've watched the eye test. This is what it tells me. Here's the numbers that I like. What'd you say?
Or recent trends. Like recent trends are another one where it's like you look at it and you're like, hey, you know what? Like, 11 seeds in the Elite Eight, or but this is each game is its own. You know what I mean? And you want to like look at that stuff, but I think sometimes we let those sort of things talk us out of it. Like we're like, oh wow, well, you know what? I really like Duke, but when they were favored by more than 5 points this year, they're X amount of numbers or whatever, and you can kind of like mind bend yourself out of like good bets. So I just like to shut off the noise, go back and just go back to the gut instincts, look at the game, figure out how I see it myself, and then just bet on it that way instead of kind of bringing in a ton of different outside information, which is good. Like you want to, you want outside information, but sometimes, when you're not winning, I think you're more susceptible to leaning on other people's opinions or stats that you heard than you really like your own analysis. And that's where you get caught up.
Yeah, so I think maybe at some point we're saying just go with your gut feel instead of using all the analytics, something that we brought Justin Perry on to tell us to do otherwise. All right. Well, but hey, no, like you said, sometimes on an L streak, you got to mix things up. All right, let's get to GTFO or oh yeah.
It's now time for GTFO or oh yeah.
Yeah, see, the big announcer guy, he got me going there now. He got a little extra spice in his voice. I needed the lion's roar before. That time, I don't need anything else extra. All right, GTFO or oh yeah, Mark Drumheller. In case you're not familiar, pretty self-explanatory. I give you a scenario here. I give you a sentence, and you tell me, we'll tell each other, GTFO, not ain't going to happen, or oh yeah, I'm buying it. So let's start here. We haven't talked a lot about the NFL draft. We will obviously, month of April, we will start ramping that up pretty quickly here. We're less than a month away. And as we make our way through the finale of March Madness and we get inundated with the new baseball season, a big talking point continues to be outside of the top three guys, which I think most people are probably pretty confident that it's going to be some sequence of Caleb Williams and then Jaden Daniels or Drake May and Jaden Daniels. But we continue to get J.J. McCarthy shoved down our throat here for better or for worse. So now a lot of mock drafts, a lot of people are thinking he's going number 4, whether there's going to be a trade with the Cardinals or whatever they're going to do, or another team might trade up. Mark, let me just ask you this. 4 quarterbacks in a row to start the draft, no matter who it is. 4 quarterbacks in the first 4 picks. GTFO or oh yeah?
GTFO. I mean, we do this every year, right? Every year we get excited about these quarterbacks. We think they're all going to go at the top of the draft, and then they get these great camera shots with those guys, sitting there, sweat running down their face because they didn't go in the top 4. They didn't get drafted. They didn't go towards the top. If I'm the Arizona Cardinals, like, there's no way I move out of that spot. Like, sure, you're going to get a ton of draft capital, but you got a guy like Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors that you can immediately plug into your offense. I don't think they pass on that. So I don't. Top 3, yes. Does it get all the way to 4? I don't know. Does McCarthy get in the top 3? I think that's probably more likely than it going quarterback.
As much as I like to agree with you, and as much as I don't think J.J. McCarthy is going to pan out as a superstar NFL talent, I got to disagree. I think the hype has become too much. I think the Cardinals, well, I'm hoping the Cardinals will play this smart and realize that if they go down to 5, or if they, not the Chargers I don't think would be willing to trade with them. So if it would have to be the Cardinals at 4, I think they say, well, maybe there's a world where the Chargers don't take Marvin Harrison, right? Because I think that's the overall thing they're looking at. Or who knows? Maybe the Cardinals beef up that offensive line and they realize we got to protect Kyler Murray as much as he can run. We want him to stay in the pocket. I don't necessarily think that it's cut and dry that the Cardinals won't trade down and the Chargers won't trade down. Maybe the Chargers are also thinking, maybe the little reverse psychology. They're thinking, all right, well, the Cardinals are definitely going to take Marvin Harrison. We also need a receiver, but we're not going to get him. Maybe we can get Malik Neighbors or Rome Odunze 2 spots later. Let's trade down to 7, and then the Cardinals don't trade. or the Cardinals do trade, and maybe you get two teams that are out thinking each other here. That's the beauty of draft night. We don't know how much that phone is ringing, what these guys are saying to each other, these general managers. So I think there is a possible world where the Chargers trade down from 5 because they don't think they're going to get Marvin Harrison, and the Cardinals trade down just because they know that they can get some extra draft picks because the team is hungry to jump into 4, and you get a team, maybe the Giants, maybe the Broncos, that draft J.J. McCarthy at 4th overall. I can see it happening. I really can. All right, we haven't done a ton of NBA today, but, I mean, we've got the play-in tournament. You like it or you hate it. It's probably going to be one of the best play-in tournaments we've had since its inception this year, especially in the West. We've got a combination of Mavericks, Warriors, Lakers, Kings, all could be in that play-in tournament. The Mavericks need to avoid the play-in. They've won 6 in a row. They've won 9 of their last 10. Mark, do you think Mavericks have to get a top 6 seed because you think that they're going to get bounced in the play-in tournament? Mavericks need to avoid the play-in. GTFO or oh yeah?
I'm going to say GTFO. I think the Mavericks are playing really good ball. They're playing better defensively, and they have. If you have Luka Doncic and you can get out of the play-in tournament. Obviously, it's going to make their prospects of winning, the West and moving on to the NBA Finals that much harder if they have to go through the play-in because nobody wants to play extra games. But I don't know. I mean, I think they can get out of the play-in and and probably still win a round or two in the playoffs, depending on what the matchups are.
I'm going to say, oh yeah. I'm going to disagree again here with you. I think they need to avoid the play-in. I think there's too much star power. There's too much variance in the Western Conference right now that the Mavericks right now at this moment, they're 44-29. They're a game and a half ahead of the Phoenix Suns. If for whatever reason they fall into that play-in tournament and, whether it's the Suns or the Kings, like, they could easily lose to either of those teams. The Suns are, Jekyll and Hyde. God knows what version of that team you're going to get on a nightly basis. And just a couple of weeks ago, I said that they are lifetime losers and that Kevin Durant is a lifetime loser. And outside of joining the best dynasty since the Chicago Bulls, that's the only reason why he's won a title. And that got, I continue to battle with Suns fans almost on the daily right now on Twitter and on Instagram. So I just had to get that back in there in the ether. But again, like they've surprised you, right? They lose against the San Antonio Spurs one night, and then they beat the Denver Nuggets on the road in Denver the next. Like, I have no idea what you're going to get from the Phoenix Suns. So very plausible to think that if that for whatever reason is the matchup, they could get beat, and then they're playing maybe either the Lakers or the Warriors, where it's win or go home, and the pressure's on them. And you're telling me Steph Curry can't, and Klay Thompson, I know he's looked washed at points this year. You tell me they can't light it up for one game. And teams know how to go in the playoffs. Regular season, I'll agree with you. Luka Doncic is phenomenal. He's top 5 player in the NBA, but teams know how to hunt him. They know how to go after him on the defensive side of the ball almost every year in the postseason. So they are vulnerable, as great as defense as they've been playing elsewhere. And I like a lot of the trades they've made. Bringing in Daniel Gafford, I think, has beefed up their front court. But yeah, I'm going to disagree. I think they have to avoid the play-in because I can see them going home if they end up in it. All right, let's do one or two more here. Let's shift the tide to baseball. It is opening weekend. We've talking about the Orioles, how they have just, made the Angels so far. They're their daddy to start this season. And the Orioles, one of the best teams in baseball. They won 100+ games last year. The Orioles to win 100+ games this year at plus 500 on BetMGM. Is that worth a bet to you, Mark Drumheller, GTFO, or oh yeah?
I'm going to say, oh, yeah. I mean, I love the O's. They're so much fun. It's hard getting to that point in back-to-back seasons, especially when you look at how the Orioles did it, right? I think they were 30-16 in one-run games last year. So they're going to need the bullpen. Everyone's talking about the starting pitching. But if anything happens with the lineup, they have the depth where they can pull from the farm system to bring guys up that can still mash. So I like the offense. I think that's going to be consistent throughout the year. As long as the starting pitching holds up, I think they can definitely do it. But the pitching is really going to be the difference for them. But I think the fact that they went through last year and did it, they're even going to be more seasoned, more ready to kind of make that next leap. So at 5-1, I think it's definitely worth a shot.
Yeah, you and me, disagreements across the board here. I think winning 100 games is hard. And I know that they did it last year, and I know that they got young studs all throughout that lineup. They got guys that they haven't even called up yet that probably might be on this team come June or July. So they have replaceable guys, right? And right now they're missing some of their starters. Kyle Bradish, John Means on the IL to start the year. So they're not even whole right now to start the season. But winning 100 games is so tough. And I know you're getting decent odds at plus 500 compared to, their over-under, I think was 91.5, 92.5, if I'm not mistaken, maybe a little bit higher. But to think that they go over that by 8-9 games, I would probably be wanting more around plus 1,000 if I'm going to take a shot at that. But tough to disagree. Tough to disagree when they have clobbered the Angels here through 2 games of the season. All right, final segment coming up. We've got best bets. We've got DGen bets. Mark Drumheller's in for Sean Morash. I'm Pat Boyle. Let's win some freaking money on this Sunday. It's BetQL 5-Star Weekend presented by BetMGM.
BetQL 5-Star Weekend will be back on the BetQL Network. Presented by BetMGM. Welcome back to BetQL 5-Star Weekend on the BetQL Network. Presented by BetMGM.
How are you? Final segment of the show here. It's been a fun one. We've got Purdue and we've got Tennessee coming up in just a couple of hours, 2.5 hours from now. You got North Carolina State, Duke later today, 10 games in the NBA, and you've got a loaded slate of Major League Baseball. Where else would you rather be? BetQL Network here. This is Pat Boyle. Mark Drumheller's in for Sean Marash, kicking you off every Sunday morning all the way through September here on BetQL 5-Star Weekend. All right, we have saved the best for last. We've got our best bets coming up in just a couple of minutes. But first here, Mark, it's a Sunday. There's a ton of action. There's a ton of normal bets you can make. But you and I, we've got a knack for some flair. We've got a flair for some spiciness, some stuff that you don't normally look at the first thing here. And everybody likes to get a little degenerate in them once in a while. It's time for Degeneration Bets.
I might be a year older. I might be a little grayer. But at the end of the day, I'm still a degenerate.
That's right. That's right. And you know what, Mark? I will do the honors here. I will kick us off. And again, not so much degenerate for me, but I guess for most people this would be degenerate. But just like I love soccer, I'm also a big tennis guy. That is probably the sport I bet on the most. So I guess, you know, anytime I put a tennis bet, you could put it as a degenerate bet. For me, this is just another day in the life here. And you got one main match on the men's slate today. Well, really one main match in general. It's the final of the Miami Masters, and you got Grigor Dimitrov versus Jannik Sinner. Sinner, reigning Australian Open champion. I think most casual tennis fans probably have come to know him in the last few months here. Destroyed Djokovic, won his first Grand Slam title just 2 months ago in Australia. He's in the final, and he's a pretty hefty favorite here against Dimitrov, a guy that used to be a top 5 player in the world, kind of fell off, lost his way. Now he's back in the top 10. He's playing the best tennis in the last 5 years that he's played. And although I don't necessarily advise giving out a bet either on the money line or set spreads or anything like that for these guys, maybe this is even a little bit degenerate for me because I'm going to go with an ace prop. You know, when you serve it right past the guy and he doesn't touch it, that's an ace for those of you that are completely have no idea what I'm talking about. So I'm going, you shop around for this. I am going Grigor Dimitrov over 6.5 total aces. Even a little bit degenerate for me. Outside the big tournaments are really the only ones that have the ace props here. So I think from a standpoint, this is a guy that is serving out of his mind right now. And I think he had 18 aces in his last match. And I think Dimitrov understands that the only way he has a chance to win this is if he continues to serve out of his skull. So I think he's going to be going for those aces rather than serving it and playing a little safe with some margin for error so that he gets the serve in. So I think he's going to go for it on the aces like he did in his last match against Zverev, a top 5 player. He had 18 aces, and I think a lot of folks know Carlos Alcaraz, who rarely gets ace because he stands so far back. Even against Alcaraz, Dimitrov had 4 aces. And those last 2 matches were at night. We're at night where the ball doesn't fly so well. This one, 3 Eastern, hot Miami weather. The ball is going to have a tendency to fly a little bit faster. So Dimitrov over 6.5 aces, and I'm getting it at even money, plus 100 here if you shop around there. So I love this one. That's where I'm going with my DGen bet, Mark. What do you got? A little football for us here on a non-football Sunday?
You know it, brother. You know it. Listen, this is as DGen as it gets. After this one, you're going to have to take a shower after you place the bet, right? Cold shower is what you want to do. If you practice and you celebrate Easter, you're going to Mass, you might want to stay a little longer afterwards, right? Just to make sure you're still in good standing. But we're going to do a UFL moneyline parlay. DC Defenders and Memphis Showboats plus 154. DC was one of the best coached teams in the league last year with Reggie Barlow. Very disciplined. They bring back quarterback Jordan Tiamu, which is very important. San Antonio, a ton of new people coming in. Quarterbacks, Chase Garbers, again, not that impressive, but they bring in a new system, Wade Phillips, AJ Smith. So you got Chase Garbers, which is bad enough in a new system against a Greg Williams defense. I like DC. I'm not laying points in the UFL. We're doing money line parlay. So the other end is going to be Memphis. They get Case Cookus at quarterback. They get him over from the team that was the Philadelphia Stars. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the USFL, so I love that. They get a ton of weapons. They're going up against a Houston team, again, with a ton of turnover. So I think this is two prime spots. We don't want to lay points in the UFL, but moneyline parlay, we get a great payout here, plus 154. Like I said, it's nasty. Put tape over the mirrors. You don't want to look at yourself after you place this bet, but it's going to cash, and that's really all that counts.
And the way you broke that down, a UFL game, whatever the hell it's called, was awfully impressive as it was scary. So I give you full credit, Mark. Some of us eat, sleep, and breathe football 12 months out of the year, not just during the NFL season. Others, like yourself, are loving is it the UFL or the USFL?
It's the UFL. So the XFL and the USFL were the two spring leagues last year. They combined. And like I said, I don't think it's viable. I think that's the first sign that this thing is probably going away. This is probably the last year. Not going to really follow it throughout the season, but it's week 1. So I know a lot of the guys from last year and some of the roster construction. So when you said we were doing DGen bets, I said, you know what? This is right up my alley. I got one that they're going to remember for a while.
All right, let's get into our last 6, 7, 8 minutes here of the show. Let's get into our best bets for today. I'll give you my bet, which is Boyle's beef bet, coming up in a couple of minutes. And sometimes, Mark, the best bets we make are the ones we make with our heart, are the ones that we make it emotionally. So last week I gave out the Islanders, my team, who I just despise, cannot stand watching. I said I was going to emotionally hedge them the rest of the year. I did it last week against the Devils. Sure enough, they get crushed. I did it yesterday against the Lightning. Sure enough, they get crushed. So sometimes betting against your team because they make you angry is a good way to win. So I'll give you that coming up here to end the show. But Mark, do you have what are your best bets here? However many you want to fire off here on a 10-day NBA slate. We know you like the Thunder against the Knicks. We've got a full slate of baseball. We got 2 Elite 8 games today. What are the bets that if you only had to place 1, 2, or 3 today, what are the ones you like the most?
Yeah, so I do like Duke team total under. I know that you're on the under there. I think if you play the Duke side of the team total under, the 73.5, I think that's a good one. You can get it a plus 110 right now at BetMGM. I think they're going to, I think it's going to be just a lower scoring game. I think the 7.5 is too much. So I like that one. I also like the Orioles on the run line. Play the run line plus 135. They've been crushing the ball. I like them in that spot. And the third one, we're going to stick with baseball. We're going to stay on the diamond. And we're going to beat up France, right? We know we don't like France here on this show. Over 2.5 earned runs, minus 140. A little bit of juice. But listen, the Yanks been killing the ball, 8 to 10 hits, 12 hits every single night. It's not going to stop here against France. So I think the over 2.5 earned runs is very viable at minus 140. I love that play. That might be my favorite one of them all.
Yeah, I like that a lot. In fact, I'm probably going to tail that, and I think I'm going to tell you on the Orioles run line, right? I mean, they're facing a wounded AAA, glorified team here in the Angels. Sometimes you just hop on the train until you get thrown off.
Yeah, and it's the back end of the rotation, right? So, that makes it even better. They're going to have some prime spots. They're going to put up a ton of runs, and the Angels just aren't going to have the firepower to keep up. So, play the run line. This is paying out. Keep playing it.
Yeah, the only thing I would be wary with, honestly, when it comes to JP France and the Yankees, over 2.5 earned runs, is if the Astros defense continues to run out there and look like a little league team with how many errors they have made through the first couple of games of the season. 2 errors and a meltdown inning on Friday night. An error again yesterday. He might give up 5 runs. Only 2 of them might be earned. But no, I'm just joking, taking a shot at the Astros defense. Yeah, taking a shot at the Astros defense. No, I do like that. 2.5 earned runs. The way that the Yankees lineup looks revamped with Juan Soto, they are making these pitchers work. And I know, God knows I'm going to hear it from Sean when he comes back to join us every Sunday here, because he's going to be talking about Yankees World Series every single week. I can already hear it now. All right, let's finish up here. I'm angry at Rick Barnes. I'm angry at Tennessee, and I'm angry at myself for not getting on the Purdue train earlier. It's time for Boyle's Beef Bet.
Pat Boyle's Beef Bet of the Week. I'm angry. I'm ready. I need to bet. It's Pat Boyle's Beef Bet of the Week on the Bet.
Now, in theory, this segment, again, it's supposed to be anger. It's supposed to be emotion. Now, all I can think of, again, when Sean Marash does come back, Mark, every single week when he, teases about this segment, he goes, yeah, we got a Boyle's Beef Cake. We got a Boyle's Beef Patty. Just totally slandering the name of the segment, which now I laugh at every time I hear it, honestly. So, I'm angry at Rick Barnes. I think he is a coach that you can have a lot of success fading in the past in the tournament, has usually come up short in the later rounds. I was on Creighton. I had them to get to the Final Four. I thought they were a team in the beginning that I thought could beat Purdue or whoever they had to play in the Elite Eight. But Tennessee, they've shown a lot of resolve. They won a rock fight, an ugly game against Texas using their defense. They were able to outscore Creighton down the stretch. But I think the road ends today for Rick Barnes and the Tennessee Volunteers. I'm on Purdue, and again, I'm mad at myself because I should have known that this was going to be the year, just like Virginia did it after they lost to UMBC, and then they won the title the year after. I should have saw, and I should have read the tea leaves and said, you know what? How funny would it be if Purdue does make a run to the title, just like Virginia did, and then watching the way they've played. Again, first two games, Grambling, Utah State, you want to chalk it up against bad opponents, but they were awfully impressive against a really good, underrated Gonzaga team. And I think 3 points here, or 3.5 right now that BetMGM has it at plus money, minus 3.5 at plus 100. I think is just too good of a bet for me to pass up. I think Purdue is far and away the better team. I think Zach Edey is a dominant force, and I just don't think really anybody outside of UConn has an answer for him. Tennessee, the bigs they want to throw at him, the Toby Awakas, right, the Adus, they're not going to be able to match up, and Purdue has turned the ball over at a very low rate so far in this tournament. They've taken care of the basketball, and they've shot the three much better than they have in years past, where they were those choke artists. So give me Purdue. I'm on the Boilermakers, minus 3.5. That'll do it for us. Mark Drumheller, fantastic job, man. Appreciate you filling in for Sean Marash. Shawnee will be back next week. My thanks to Mario Heron, Dan Turner, Kenny, everybody on the crew. As always, I'm Pat Boyle. Good luck on your bets. Good luck on March Madness. April is upon us next. This has been BetQL 5-Star Weekend, presented by BetMGM.
You've been listening to the BetQL Network, presented by BetMGM. If you missed any of the shows, listen back anytime on the new and improved Odyssey app.